Sure, yeah, it's 7 o'clock. Good evening. 7 o'clock, so I'm going to bring the meeting to order. I'm Don Burby from 135 River Road.
Mike Wayne, Select Board Rep.
Arthur Osmond, 36 Tonga Drive.
Measure 8 Beasley Road.
Mike Lawton, 3 Asa Drive.
Sandy Crystal, One Shoreview Drive.
And Matt Monahan, Central New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission.
Ryan Westover, the assistant planner.
Barbara Hayes, recording secretary.
Okay, so tonight we do got a little bit of a lengthy agenda. Hopefully we don't get into the part about if we don't get done by 9:45. Should be able to get it done. But anyway, so we'll get right to it. We got a minor modification or conceptual consultation for Regan Trust for a proposed 11 lot residential subdivision. Block 2, lot 40 and 41, located at 11 through 15 South Bow Dunbarton Road, and 33 Quimby Road. Who do we got talking about this? Actually, we're gonna get to present from that corner, right? You can come up, but
Yeah.
the camera's gonna get you on.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump on this.
Yeah, there you go,
Sure.
in case somebody's watching from home.
Sure. Good evening, my name is Jacques Lange, I'm the surveyor. Prepare the application for this.
Oh, actually, before you get too far, so we do got a couple members not here tonight. So David and Jonathan, you will be voting on this also. Go ahead. Now we got Willis.
Right.
Time is relative. I can sit over there.
No one to face me.
Yeah. Yeah. Jonathan's not here.
Hey.
You were on the site walk at the 17 lot one.
Yes.
We're gonna keep you voting tonight. That'll have us at 7, which is good. So, everybody's voting. All right, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Not a problem at all. I'm Jacques Lange, doing survey work in the application for Reagan Trust. What they do is they have 2 lots at the intersection of Quimby and South Dunbarton Road. The large lot having 35.6 acres, the small lot having 6.17 acres. We're going to combine the two, create up to 41.8 acres with a combined frontage of 561 linear feet. There's an existing barn and house down here on the smaller lot, lot 81, that they're going to be tearing down, if it's not down already. And lot 40 has the Quimby cemetery up on it with the access way up to that. Down here towards the southern end of the property. What they're looking to do is to subdivide into a total of 11 lots with areas ranging from 2 to 4.8 acres, fronting on both roads. Widening dedication, which is typical on both sides of Quimby Road and South Dunbarton Road. It's already been down on both sides. We've taken the wetlands have been delineated, steep slopes have been taken out, buffers have been taken out. For the configuration and for the lot size and calcs on this. At this time, we're not planning on, this time, we're planning on 10 individual driveways servicing the lots, 1 common driveway because of the slopes down here, servicing the second 2 from the last, lots of the south end of the project. We're not anticipating any wetlands impacts or impacts to the buffer areas on there. And the only state application we're going to require for this is the state subdivision, DES. So just want to kind of bring that to you, and take a look at it, and just think about what making an application for next week. And see if you have any feedback on it.
Okay.
To what?
Did not have an open
So if you
space.
have 10 or more lots and 30 more acres, you're required to do open space subdivision regulations or control rates. Open space requires what it's on the road, so the idea of building a road parallel to South Bow Road just for the sake of having
Yeah.
open space and impacting wetlands. You know, That's their premise for why.
Yeah, why we didn't even do a concept for it. It's just a long skinny lot. Doesn't really.
And you have all the road frontage to do.
Yeah.
All conventional lots. So I mean, that definitely makes sense. Sounds like a waiver that would happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
and looking at some of the preliminary wet areas, they do look like, if you look at sheet 2, they go all the way to the back. So that makes sense that, you know, to not put in a road there, if you avoiding wetland crossing. Sheet 3 is the same way. They look like they got one all the way back there too.
And you still, everything ends up with plenty of buildable area.
Road to maintain too.
Yep.
The only thing I did see, Sheriff, was that the open space, they use, a lot of times that's used for the recreation dedication. And it would be traditional. Something that we'll have to consider, it's not a requirement, planning board can ask for. Recreation dedication.
Well, isn't that for any subdivision? The recreation dedication? I mean, over a certain number.
Yeah, I think so, for any major, more than 3.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
There's supposed to be some,
but being this isn't an open space subdivision, there's not that open space potentially used for recreation purposes. This is all being used for individual lots. So
yeah.
that's the only thing that came to mind on the job.
Yeah, it kind of, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have an isolated pocket of recreation space out in the middle of
Yeah,
nowhere, really.
which I mean, some of that, I mean, in the past, there has been some issue from monetary or other means of recreation.
So they can offer, if the planning board chooses to require the recreation dedication provided land, combination of land and monetary donation or
Monetary.
monetary. The board cannot ask for monetary, they can offer to do that.
Okay.
You know, if there are any vernal pools on that property?
I can ask the wetland guy. There is one isolated pocket of wetlands up here. Rocks, these two here are isolated. I'm not sure if they can use it for the option, but ask them to look at that.
That would affect the buffer.
Let's step back, yes.
So there wasn't any wetland crossings on this, or what do you have?
No impacts.
Okay.
So the angled shading is the steep slope? Because a couple of them have it at the front. That's what I was kind of
Yes.
confusing. Okay. Thank you.
Want to say it looks like a simple one. But it never said that, but,
Do we just have 3 maps for this, or are there more maps?
3.
Just in for conceptual.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any issue, big issue, or
Except
I don't know
jurisdiction.
if anybody else on the board has any questions, comments, issues.
We don't get them this straightforward often.
No,
Well, there are some complex things on it, but
Fair
because the
enough.
road is there.
Yeah.
It's a little less of an issue.
yeah, everybody's gonna conventional lots. Yeah, okay, draw up some plans, get. What's that? No, this is conceptual,
Conventional lots with sufficient road frontage is kind of unusual.
yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
All right, and our second one, which was for Bo Reman, which was a non-residential subdivision. They have rescinded and didn't want to do a conceptual tonight. Hopefully they'll come back on another time.
Would you say they're not here tonight?
They're not here tonight,
They
Dave.
withdrew their.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're gonna move right along to public hearings. Number 1, application 502-22. W. Barbara E. McCully Rev. Revocable Trust of 2020 Open Space Residential Subdivision creating 17 lots and a 2,700-foot new public road and associated wetland protections conditional use permit 2-22 for 4,535 square feet of wetland impact and 43,425 square feet of wetland buffer impact for road and driveway construction. Block 4, lot 82, located at 25 Page Road, continued from May 19th.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jason Lopez, Teach Nordstrom Associates. Here representing Samuel Drive LLC. John will be back in a moment and Chris is here. Real quick before I get started, I don't see that you guys have a colored version of the Yale plan, and I'll hand out some colored ones here.
Yeah, seriously.
Looks like a lot of familiar faces, so I'm not sure how much. It's been a little while since we've been before. I don't have a face. It's been a little while since we've been before you. February 17th, we had a meeting. We discussed the project. March 12th, we had a scheduled site walk that was canceled due to weather. We met on March 17th, brief discussion, and then had a April 9th site walk, joint site walk with the conservation. And then on the 19th, we asked for a continuance to this evening. Basic outline, 17 lot subdivision. 64.6 acres total area. We have frontage on Page Road and White Rock Hill Road. We abut the Londonderry, branch Londonderry Turnpike West and abut the Walker Forest. Just as a reminder, the people in location, property again on Page and on White Rock. We are proposing open space. We have the Walker open space property across from the Class 6 Londonderry Road. Recently, Chadwick conveyed a piece of property which will be open space. And then that abuts the project we were here about 3 years ago, Hamilton Court. We provided open space to the town for that project, and then that goes into the Hammond Preserve. So we're looking at a large connection of open space should the board desire to accept town ownership of the open space. So with that, there'd be 32.5 acres of open space. The open space subdivision requires 3/4 of an acre buildable area. All our lots on the open space proposal will be 1 acre or larger, with the largest lot being 2.9 acres. And all the lots will be served by septics and wells. A couple major changes. I'll say major. Since the site walk, we did get a wetland consultant out to the site. There was question on the presence of intermittent streams. Under more recent zoning regulation change, intermittent streams do classify as surface water. Surface waters have a setback of 75 feet. So with the presence of some of those intermittent streams, we ended up having increased setbacks from the 50, what we were thinking was 50, turned to 75. That created a little bit of a issue with our yield plan. So we took a look at the increased buffers and the yield plan. We had to make modifications to the yield plan. And on the open space subdivision, we had to slide on a road about 5 feet to get a little more area in a few lots to meet the minimum buildable areas. So that's big picture of what we've done. So I'll start off with the yield plan. That's where the biggest change really occurred with all the modifications. Previously, we had a kind of a loop road following almost the same layout we were proposing with the conventional subdivision. Well, with that, the increased setbacks, we had to modify that. I've come in with two separate cul-de-sacs. We have maintained all the requirements, for the conventional subdivision. I don't know if Ryan's willing to speak to that, but he has reviewed that yield plan, and we've been able to address all comments on the yield plan. So that is one of the main topics we need to discuss tonight and come to a conclusion on, because that yield plan will define the number of lots that we can have in the open space subdivision. Then we have a conditional use permit. We have 2 wetland crossings and a small isolated wetland pocket that we're going to be filling. We have some buffer areas that are also impacted. So that's addressing the conditional use permit. After going through Gale Associates review comments, there is one waiver that I will be requesting. I do have that waiver request in writing now. It has not been provided to the board. I have, just receiving Gale's latest review. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So what we're looking for is where the road comes in on the conventional, the open space subdivision coming off Page, there's a sag curve. And the length of that curve is not long enough, but where we're in a stop situation with a stop sign, going to be looking for a waiver there. I can talk about that a little more. And then hopefully this evening, we're hoping we could receive conditional approval on the project. And there are some comments in the staff report outlining possible conditions. We've reviewed those and are in agreement. So I guess I want to put it back to the board, any general questions, and then a little direction on how you want to proceed with the different items we need to discuss this evening.
Okay. So let's start with the yield plan, which that's been done. Obviously, it's still at 17 lots.
Yes.
You've reviewed what they've,
Review the changes, all the lots meet the requirements for the traditional subdivision as for contiguous buildable area and frontage. And like with 17 lots, is acceptable.
okay. Anybody, the board's got questions on?
Just
The
looking
yield
at some
plan?
of the steep slope areas and because some of them have significant grading for driveways and such. What is the,
They did provide driveway grade plans and they all stayed at 10% or less.
okay. What is the, here it is. The wetland impact would be 7,431, so that's larger than current, and then the buffer impact is larger also.
52, yes, both would require. And with that, we were proposing some common driveways, which had.
Yes, saw that.
And as Brian mentioned, we did, with the concern and, the prior yield plan, I did the same thing, but out at the site walk, there was some concern on some of the grades. So I did provide profiles on the 2 roads, and I did a driveway profile on each lot, just to prove that, we can meet the driveway requirements for each lot.
Okay, was that something that Gail had talked about, this unknown concern? What was,
Oh, I can, that's on the conventional on the open space subdivision.
Okay.
I can address that. In a moment.
Okay, yeah, all right. So, I guess, the changes is a big part here is, if you make that work, and then you said, so that change, you'll lay out some on
A little bit.
the plan.
I mean, if you look at it, you're probably not gonna notice much of a difference on the open space subdivision, but me as a designer, I know where I had to move.
Yep.
Twist and tweak, yeah.
And you said which road moved some?
On the open space,
Yeah, on the open space.
where it was coming in off White Rock Hill Road.
Yep.
We had a little bit of an increase in buffer. There was also a concern where, on the previous plan, part of this lot line was extending into the 50-foot buffer. So between a little bit of buffer change here and this change, I didn't quite have enough buildable land. So I had to slide this whole road, this section, for the first 2 and 3 lots. I had to slide that over about 5 feet or so.
Okay.
He didn't tell me that.
In a common driveway.
And, so one of these was a common driveway now?
Yeah, it was before.
Okay.
So you want to flip over to talk about the open space one now?
Yeah.
So in that open space plan, again, like I said, move that road over a little bit, cut that lot out. Out of that 50-foot perimeter buffer. The 2 lots on the plan, N and M, we have a common driveway running back to those 2. So what I did is I tried to straddle where the wetlands converge so we can minimize the number of wetland crossings. So the road will have 2 crossings, and then there's kind of a land bridge. It's within the buffer, but it's kind of a land bridge that gets back to that buildable area in the back. So I utilize that to get the driveway out there. Driveway will be constructed with the road. We've got that pitched to one side. Drainage swale on one side. All that water will sheet down, come to a culvert, enter into the closed drainage system in the roadway, and make its way down to this detention pond. So yes, we have quite a long driveway going in through that buffer, but we've tried to design it in a manner we can capture all that runoff from the improved area and get it down into the drainage system through the treatment system.
And you said that driveway will be put in with the road.
Yes.
So all the other driveways will be put in.
Yeah, till we get just out of the buffer where they split, that will give a little bit of a turnaround for temporary purposes until house lots are constructed. And it also gets the road contractor out there doing that with greater control, tying in that drainage system. Be one entity in control of all that construction.
Where are we gonna go next on this? Anyway, you got questions on?
Well, I think my concerns relate more to the CUP and how the design didn't take into account what the functions and values analysis that's required to be done. There is pretty much an emphasis on the square foot of impact and minimizing the square foot of impact, but you have a vernal pool, which provides unique habitat. You have a Blanding's turtle, which is endangered in New Hampshire in the area. And kind of what I see is kind of the encroachment with lots N and M. In that close to the vernal pool. And like I said, when some of the criteria for the conditional use permit require that, the wetland resources are taken into account. It's not just the square footage of area. And basically, the functions and values analysis was done after the whole project was designed. It wasn't done at the front end to design it with the functions and values.
Where's the vernal pool close to N and M?
Well, there are actually two, but the main one is here, which is already kind of in the northeast. It's already kind of constrained by White Rock Hill Road.
Right, that's the one at the intersection of Sawmill and Page, are you talking about?
No. This, it's the large oval at the.
Okay.
look up.
Actually, I can point that out here.
Okay.
So again, Page up here, White Rock down here. So two vernal pools on the property, one up here
Okay,
in the northeast corner of the property.
yeah,
And then there's another one down out back, right along that Class 6 road. In terms of other wetland items, on that presentation plan here, this darker lines that are going through the middle of the wetlands, those are where the two wetland consultants on the project determined intermittent streams and
Well, they're intermittent. Yeah, they're intermittent, right.
a couple streams there. And then we do have out on the other side of the Londonderry Turnpike West, there is a prime wetland. That prime wetland buffer does extend onto the property. The prime wetland is not on the property, but we've adjusted the buffer, removed that from buildable area. So really, it's the wetland complex as a whole, the two vernal pools. This little pocket up by Page that we thought may be potential early winter. I mean, when we went out there for the site walk, it was more dry at that point, not a vernal pool.
okay. So the
If something
only,
was wet, it would have been wet at the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It was wet then.
It was really very wet.
so the only vernal pool of concern is,
So your concern with, they didn't, the review that's done afterwards, the technical review, if it was done before, what do you think would change?
Well, the thing is that there are a couple of aspects. One is, the buffer here is like on somebody else's property, on private property. And we know even with the buffer markers, maintaining buffers on private property is a challenge. Especially, to keep them forested, which is important to the vernal pools. The project uses closed drainage, which has issues for turtles, because turtles get stuck in the drainage structures. And for Blanding's turtles, which is endangered, it's particularly significant. Also, juvenile Blanding's turtles use vernal pools. So there's also not only the turtles, and it's actually more than just the one that they talk about reporting. There are more in the area. The other thing is one of the criteria in our CUP talks about reducing the impact to the wetland buffer. And, the answer was that they talked to Natural Heritage and basically Fish and Game, but the conversation with Fish and Game has not been, from what I understand, that's not been fully addressed in terms of incorporating any Fish and Game feedback. So it's really the encroachment on that vernal pool that's already kind of constrained by the road, and you're putting two houses and a lot of grading and such there. Also, that driveway that's in between the two drainages, you're going to have even if I know Jason had described how they were making it so that it would drain in one direction rather than both directions, but the fact is you're going to have snow on both sides of that area and with salt. And so you're going to have the drainages that are going down gradient, being hit with that by being right in the middle of the buffer for both drainages, including the intermittent stream. So those are, it's kind of both the water quality and the wildlife aspects that are of concern.
So I guess your concern was about not taking some in consideration. I'm just trying to understand what could be done different. I mean, which I'm not a professional in this, but
Well,
I see they're staying on their high ground. I mean, the yield plan
okay.
gets to 17 watts.
Yeah, that is the maximum number of
Yes.
watts they can get, not necessarily the number. And I just don't think that this plan really took the vernal pool and the Blanding's turtle concerns into account. And the water quality by impacts in the buffer. I mean, there's about an
So-
acre of buffer impacts on the site.
They've met all the requirements as far as
Yeah.
setbacks and everything for the vernal.
Well, numerically, yes.
Okay.
Numerical, well,
Okay.
do they, yes, if we gave them the CUP. If we give them a CUP, I mean, they still need a conditional use permit
Mhm.
because they are impacting wetland and buffers. So it's not like they met the conditions. Well, they're seeking a conditional use permit to be allowed for these impacts.
Okay. And as far as the turtles with the closed drainage system, it's working on Hamilton Court, right?
Well, Hamilton Court's a different place. You don't have a vernal pool on the site. I don't remember whether Blanding's turtles came up there as a hit, but the fact is you have a vernal pool on this
Mhm.
property with drainages that go down to another wetland. So these turtles move between uplands and wetlands. And the fact is we're putting a road through there. I know that the culverts are larger size, but actually the turtles don't go through 80-foot long culverts because they're too dark. So you can have them really large, but the really long culverts, they will not go through. So that's another challenge there. So, but I think the area, the encroachment near the vernal pool is probably, as well as the drainage is a concern.
So lot M, that looks like that's like one of the biggest lots on here, right? With the
Yeah.
2.9 acres. Any reason why, like, and I see there's a little piece that actually hits the wetland. That lot couldn't get slightly smaller just so it doesn't hit I mean, where would that propose a big impact on it?
Something we could do, but if I can kind of address some of those comments,
Sure.
get in a dangerous place, the engineer's mind.
Yeah.
First off, to go back to the Hamilton Court, yeah, we're pretty much using that project as the model of what we want to do here. And there was some vernal pools on that property, but they were way out in the back, not up near the development. But on this project here, yes, we have the vernal pool. It's right up close to the roadway. So the function of this, we pick up a lot of the runoff coming down this hill from up towards the Page direction. We have two primary outlets for that system. We have a small 15-inch RCP that goes underneath the roadway. That is the lowest outlet for that complex. So we get water flow, and there's a little brook that kind of trickles out over into these lots. Then the other areas, once that, now my assumption is once that hits capacity, then we start bubbling over and flowing down into this wetland channel. It goes across what's the snowmobile trail right now. It's a little bit of flooding. So this pocket is uphill of a lot of the development. Doesn't mean the turtle, I understand what Sandy's saying. It doesn't mean the turtles aren't going to travel where they want to travel. But in terms of lot development here, if you look at the topography, there's a high spot. So what's happening is we have a little bit of land that's in the buffer zone right around that's flowing back into that vernal pool. And then as you make your way into the lot a bit, then it starts flowing down this way to the south. So we're looking at the lot development being on the southerly side of that knoll, just to try to keep lot development. Now that's going to keep stormwater runoff and so forth heading into the southerly direction, no way, but there's no way to stop critters from traveling where they want to travel. So that's that vernal pool. Now, in the progression of the design and the CUP and the vernal pool study, we started this project. We started this project last fall. We had wetland mapping done last fall, I believe it was. Vernal pool study was not done. Vernal pool study is best when it's active in the spring. When I came for the board, and I believe it was February, we had the conditional use permit. And Mr. Engineer Mine kind of put together that conditional use permit and explained, how we're minimizing impact to the wetlands and so forth. Well, ISO didn't happen until about the time of the site walk, and then we had the vernal pool study done. So I didn't send the conditional use permit back to the wetland consultants to put in their terms. I kept it the same. In my opinion, anyways, the reasons and decisions that I made in the design of the crossings was more about minimizing impact. We feel that this is the best place to cross. The values, function of value reports done. There was one done up in the vernal pool area. There was one done in this crossing area and one done in this crossing area. I can't say, I did discuss a little bit yesterday with one of the wetland scientists. I can't say I'd modify the design based on the functions and value report, the information contained in that. There are design modifications that can be made. I'm sure we can talk about that. But what I did in the design is we looked at proposing a 22-foot wide road curved all the way through with a closed drainage system. Given comments from Fish and Game on the Hamilton Court, off the bat, we knew what we were going to get. We had turtles in the area here. All the catch basins have no sumps. Sumps they consider as a potential of drowning, capturing for turtles. So, we've eliminated the sumps from the design. We have sloped granite curbing. It's not vertical. It is sloped. It is at about a 45-degree angle, 6 inches high. The other option to keep a curved closed drainage system would be a bituminous curb. Has a different appearance. It's only 4 inch high. It is a little lower profile,
Plows rip it up.
Yeah, I know Tim Sweeney didn't like it, yeah.
So,
I know Tim didn't.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit, applicant and myself, you weigh out that, cost, but maintenance issue, aesthetics, I guess you can have your opinion and say on the type of curbing, but with a closed drainage system, we got to get something contained in there. So I designed this crossing for 22 feet. We've had communication with the town engineer the engineer from Gale comment from DPW and also fire department. And they had a concern out on Hamilton Court where we go across that wetland area that we had out there with guardrails close. We had 22 feet. They didn't like the width in the winter with the plowing. Snow, they weren't pushing the snow back far enough, afraid of damaging the guardrails. So the snow was creeping and it made a narrower width. So they were asking for the whole road to be 26 feet wide. What we're proposing in this plan here is a 22-foot wide road through everything except for the areas of the wetland cross. And then what we're doing is we're applying a taper that you would find with DOT with transitions for bypass lanes and so forth. You take every foot you're coming across, speed limit. So we got a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit we're designing here. We come in from 22 feet to 26, so we got a 2-foot, we're widening. So we're gonna taper 22 feet over 60 feet, we'll taper out to 26 feet at the crossings, put the guardrails above the curb. And then right behind the guardrails, we're gonna have a little bit of a shoulder, 5 feet, and then 2-to-1 slope down. Ran the drainage and the hydraulics on it. Drainage and hydraulics show a 24-inch pipe is sufficient. But again, knowing the history of working with DES wetlands and also Fish and Game, immediately out of the gate, we upsized the pipe. We went to a 48-inch RCP. They don't like the polyethylene, too slippery for the critters. And then we took the 48-inch RCP and we're sinking it down a foot.
What's RCP?
Reinforced concrete pipe.
Okay.
So we have 48-inch reinforced concrete pipe. We're sinking it down into the ground 12 inches and they infill the bottom with rounded river rock that creates, it's a man-made simulation of stream bottom for critters. So that's the process that we went about. So you've got the 2-to-1 side slopes. You want to go 1-to-1 on the side, minimize impact more. That creates a maintenance issue with steeper slopes on the side of the road. Ultimately, this road is going to town, so that then would fall on the town to maintain. So we felt 2-to-1 is appropriate. That minimizes. We've done that at both crossings. So what we've got in the first crossing, the larger crossing here, we got 2 48-inch reinforced concrete pipes, because we have these two wetland channels that come down and then just south of our crossing, they converge. So we need to transfer that flow from both. This one up here, it's just a small isolated pocket, but it still picks up enough runoff from upslope. We have a 24-inch reinforced concrete pipe that is not embedded. In the preparation of the CUP, I prepared it, engineer speaking words, whatever, however you want to say it. And I didn't have that revised by the wetland consultant after the vernal pool study and the functional values. I guess I would still explain it the same way. The wetland consultant may modify the wording, but in the wetland permit that's been provided to the town, both the vernal pool study is in there and the functional values reports are in that report. So it's kind of how I got to where we are. So now I just take some direction from the board.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Just to follow up on that. Can you talk about the shared driveway in the same way that you've talked about how you minimize the impact using the road?
Well, with the shared driveway, because we've got it's a long drive.
Right.
And because it's shared, you could have the potential of vehicles passing. So I don't have a dimension right here. I believe it's 16 feet wide and 20 feet with the shoulders. You need it to be 20 feet wide, clear for fire. So it is 20 foot wide shoulder to shoulder, and that slopes into the swell and it comes down to a head wall. The drainage would come down to the head wall here, tie into some catch basins and then head down into our drainage system.
Well, why there? Why not somewhere else?
Well, if for instance, we came and we crossed over here.
Yeah.
We came in between here, we'd have a common driveway, we'd have another wetland impact in order to get out there.
Would it be less?
No, Because we'd have four impacts at that point. We got one impact here, kind of see the black lines, small isolated pocket, and then another one here.
But the square footage would be less.
Square footage would go up a little bit because we'd have an additional crossing.
Yeah, but they,
Not in buffer, but it would be in
Yeah, see,
wetland.
that long driveway is.
Oh,
It's all,
in the
it's all in the,
buffer.
it's all in the buffer. I didn't want to do a fourth crossing.
right, but the CUP, it's buffer or wetland.
Yes.
Correct. So
Correct.
you could get less square footage by putting impact to the buffer and wetland.
We would have more wetland impact,
Less
potentially
buffer.
less buffer impact. But when we go forward to the state of New Hampshire, they're not looking at the local ordinance of wetland buffer impact. They're looking at wetland impact. We can certainly utilize the town's regulations as an argument towards increasing the
Right,
amount
so
of
you'd
impact.
say, they would say to you, you got 1,000 square feet in this configuration. If you did it differently, you could get 800, and we're saying to the opposite,
Correct.
Because we're looking at
buffer.
buffer.
Yeah.
You're looking at buffer too. They don't look at the buffer.
Environmentally, what's better?
You're saying environmentally, do you say water quality? Do you say wildlife? I mean, it's.
Well,
a whole
something's
lot
got to
of
be
things.
better than something else. I mean, we're gonna put a value judgment.
Well,
on it.
I guess my issue is, I think lot M and N are just like too much for, I think those really encroach on the vernal pool in terms of, I know you have the buffer is in the backyard of the house that's shown, the grading goes right up to the buffer of the vernal pool. You eliminate M and N and you eliminate the driveway and, you've eliminated a huge amount of direct buffer impact and address the wildlife.
I mean, I think, John, you asked a question earlier of Sandy, what would be different? As I listened, I'll say a couple things. I thought your explanation about that prime wetland and how the lot sort of does protect it by nature, like that's a pretty good argument towards minimizing impact in my mind. But I think to answer the question, it would be not doing those lots, right? If you were minimizing the impact, you wouldn't do those lots. Now, the regulation isn't only, it's, minimize the impact, right? It's also reasonable use of the property. So it's for the board to decide whether, I don't hear a lot of objection about the other crossings, but whether those two lots are worth increased disturbance is really, to me, the question. Under, 1001, whatever it is, F. I thought your argument about the way that you've constructed the road in a way to minimize the impact, similar to the way the lot protects the vernal pool, as I mentioned, was good. It makes a lot of sense. I think that's what the regulation requires us to listen to an argument like that. The driveway, I don't know. It's a tougher question to me. That's all.
Certainly, I'll make a debatable statement.
Sure.
But we've got White Rock Hill Road right next to the vernal pool with no closed stormwater treatment system. It's just sheet runoff from the roadway right into that.
Driveway won't have that though, right?
No, the driveway, that's all gonna be pitched into itself, and we're gonna be picking that up in that ditch line, which gets down into our treatment system.
Oh, so, okay, so it does the driveway is
Oh, yeah.
structured in such a way that it gets
Yes,
the
yes.
runoff treated.
Yes.
Well, but salt doesn't
Fair,
get treated.
yeah, fair.
Chloride's.
It's not perfect, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a question, what's the limit for fire? Is it a max of 8 houses or 10 houses? What's the limit?
6. Isn't it 6?
Oh,
Or is it
no,
12? Oh, it's
12 with a
It's
turnaround,
12.
yeah.
That's right.
Dead end street, 12.
Well, the reason I ask that is there a reason why you just don't avoid that big center crossing? That have, like you had on your yield plan to some extent, where you actually have 2 dead end. It also eliminates some of the people's complaints about the cars driving through and everything else. I mean, have you thought about, I'm sure you looked at that.
I did contemplate that. in order to get that,
You eliminate the big crossing, then if you want to go into those two lots, you have one little crossing. And you eliminate a lot of stuff.
not really, because by the time we're still going to be crossing in about the same area with about the same impacts. And we're going to have to do another crossing up here if we want to utilize this buildable area. I mean, do we want to construct a road on a steep slope? You know what happens with the steep slopes? You're going wide with a swath because you're gonna tie that, we're limited to an 8% slope on the roadway. And by the time you cut in an 8% slope on 20% grades out, our side slopes coming way up, we're gonna have a swath quite wide in order to tie these grades in. To get down out back, to put more house lots down in the back.
I'm not saying go that far. Essentially, you do the exact same thing you have here. It's just now you have a turnaround toward the end where the 5 lots are right before the wetland on one side. And you have a turnaround where proposed lot H is, or right before that on the upside. And then you could shoot, like I'm talking about, for those lots M and N, you could shoot across that narrow area that eliminates all the double crossing, all the driveway straddling and so forth. All that red area goes away. And you have 2 turnaround. I mean, it's a little bit more space on the turnarounds, but you've just eliminated what, 20,000, 30,000 square feet of buffer and wetland impact.
Doesn't get you anywhere near 17 lots.
No, it's the exact same 17. You do 7 on one side and
No, you
I doubt it.
wouldn't fit.
They
because
they
the
wouldn't come, they
turnarounds
wouldn't
take a
come
lot of-
if it would have, which I understand, right?
And again, when I was looking at it, I've got to look at road costs.
Yeah.
Also, right? So by the time you measure the length of road, gravel base pavement around the cul-de-sac, and you do that twice, we were pretty close to straight. So road construction cost is about the same,
Okay.
but you end up with a big landing pad where the cul-de-sacs are. I mean, I did look at some early concepts like that, but it kept coming back to the straight through road.
it's just too much hill.
Yeah, the grades out there. But the primary thing is over the 12 lots, we are required to have 2 access points. So that was the other thing I was combating in doing the layout.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I said, on one side you have 11, on one side you have 7.
Right.
You're not over the 12 with either one of them, so it would work as far as that number goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I just, because I say, if you're looking at ways to eliminate a heck of a lot of wetland impact, buffers and things like that, that it seems like a way to do it. But if it's, if it doesn't work cost wise because of road construction costs and things like that, then that's a whole different issue.
And there are studies that show, to me, a vernal pool next to a road is different from a vernal pool in the middle of nowhere, which is where you want vernal.
Right,
pool.
right. Well, the thing is that what the issue is here is that it's already constrained by the road. Now, things move there. I mean, I was there one night and, like there were a whole lot of wood frogs. Well, like 15 crossed and another 15 were run over on the road. Because they don't go through that 15-inch culvert. But that's the concern, is that it's already constrained so that the rest of the area around it should be undisturbed and not encroached upon so that there is more free movement. So in fact, the Corps of Engineers has a fact sheet about, what percentage of area around a vernal pool should remain undisturbed, so if you're going to impact one part of it, as long as like the rest of it, I can't remember the percentages, that would still work because the critters have directions that they can move. But here you're really kind of encroaching on everything that's left.
One more point, a couple other things. Yes, we did submit the state wetland application. We are still in consultation with Fish and Game in talking about the turtles and the crossing and so forth. But one other point on that, your zoning requires, 30, 50, or 75-foot setbacks. And yes, we are proposing 2 house lots in this upland area, or buildable area. But we also, per zoning, are required to maintain, we've got 50 feet on both sides plus a little width. We're 120-foot wide swath that needs to be maintained in natural state. When you come over to this, that recent zoning change to include what's intermittent streams as surface waters, then you use 75-foot setback. In this area, we've got 75 and 75. So, there's, you get that plus the width, you're almost 175-foot wide of a natural wooded strip following the threads of these wetland channels. So will critters migrate into the yards? Absolutely. But are there also natural swaths of land? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a different question?
Sure.
For me, I kind of want to think about this for a second. So I want to talk about some of the feedback from the town, the 26-foot road from DPW and fire. I know you said you're widening it at the crossings, but I don't know if they said anything to us, but that's not what it says in their comments.
In the counts in.
Correct. They both state 26.
They just say 26 feet for the whole road.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
26 feet, I mean, where is that coming from? I'm assuming that's just coming from their comfort level from the other project and what they were dealing with snow maintenance and movement. But there was another part of that decision, and, going from 26 feet to 22 feet to 26 feet, you've got additional impervious, additional area that's going to be capturing dealing with road salts. The bigger item is this is going to become a town road. That's going to be an 18-20% increase in maintenance costs when you've got to do, wearing course and replace, so, looking at increased impervious, you're looking at the increased, heated area, stormwater gets warmer, putting it down into the ponds. You're looking at increased runoff, more impervious area, and you're looking at long-term maintenance costs for the town.
Can we at least even conditionally refer that back to DPW and the fire department? So it's their updated plan with the widening where he thinks it matters just to get there.
Yeah, my take on this, and admittedly, I'm pinch hitting here, so the background I don't have, but taking all the stuff into account, right? So we had the department head comments, the engineer comments came on the 14th. In my brain, I was looking for some sort of, okay, you're good, like kind of going down the line and making sure that we hit those marks. So I think the circle back in some way and find some middle ground might be a good strategy.
Yeah, which that might be it. Like you may have already defined it, but we just need to hear from them.
Yeah, it's kind of, and the same in my brain is true about the engineering comments. I mean, they've got a lot of good feedback there. And I think you guys might need the opportunity to say, hey, here's how we're meeting it and respond back. And I know the timelines, it's a big project. You guys have been working pretty hard on it. And,
I guess.
Well, I know the applicant's desire was to leave with conditional this evening, so I gotta say that.
I got one question on with the road and the width. I mean, we have regs of what the roads need to be.
22 feet wide.
22 feet, that's-
Drainage.
that's a-
Drainage 22.
So it's I guess, DPW looks at, the easier thing to do, but it is, I mean, wider road is definitely more money. If they think our road should be wider and they're having issues, we need to be talking about that of the regs, to require, well, you know what, this was tough town this year, so why don't we make that wider?
That's why we changed it to 75 feet for the setback on open water. That's why we do it.
Yeah, and so, that's what I'm kind of wondering, but, his point of wider road, it's gonna cost more to maintain. I mean,
that wasn't also from the fire department?
It was.
maybe,
But they even, it's the same.
same thing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like same exactly whether it's DPW or, same argument there, so, your argument where, with where there's guardrails and to bring wider, I mean, that makes good sense. To make the whole road wider, I mean, as the guy that's gonna be, paying to repave this road in 20 years, I'd say keep it narrow.
If DPW and the fire department want this, they should write us a letter and we can do an
Absolutely.
amendment to the regulations next year. It's not hard to do.
Yeah.
Or they can change the municipal code with this, with you guys. It's not hard to do, but if that's what the reg is, that's what the reg is, whether we like it or not.
Actually, it's a subdivision regulation, so you don't have to wait till.
You don't have to go to.
Oh, it's actually the subdivision regs? Okay.
But the updated proposal, just to be clear, is to have a wider 26-foot road at the crossings.
Correct.
Which is where, in your view, their concerns stemmed from Hamilton Court.
Correct. Yes.
So that is a better plan than they saw.
Yes.
Which is almost amusing because that's the one place you'd want it narrower because you want to have less impact. It's like,
There's a balance.
you can't wait.
There's a balance.
But so I just have one other question about the staff report. The business administrator from the SAU. Did you read that? Do you have any-
Yeah, I did. They had concern with the traffic. I replied in the previous reply that went to Gail. Basically, we've got our peak hours in the morning are about the same as the school, but the afternoon peak, we're 4 to 6. They're earlier in the day.
What about the water?
The wells, we've got 17 wells, we're a ways away. They have the same thing. They've got a well, irrigation in the sports fields. I mean, so, I mean, subsurface water is a public resource, has to be managed appropriately. We're talking 17 single-family homes. I know there's some properties down the road a bit that have issues, but we're gonna have to meet building requirements in order to get certificate of occupancies on these homes.
Right, but you don't need irrigation systems
No,
to
well,
meet certificate of occupancy
Yeah.
requirements.
No,
And that is probably one of the biggest issues with
Did,
water use these days.
yes,
did Gail raise any concerns on water? I didn't see any, but
they didn't respond. to-
I don't know that they do though.
No, they're given tasks with engineering.
Okay.
It's interesting that the school talks about their water because there's also another public water system that's not far from here as well, that's closer than the school, so.
You wanted to, okay, you're good now, okay. So we've talked to the road,
I'll just ask one other question.
Okay.
There is a lot in this report. I don't know how, I mean,
When did
June
you,
14th,
when
yeah.
did you receive them?
Gail's,
yeah,
either yesterday or the day before.
yeah, I mean, it's stamped the 14th. So
Why did it come so late? Because it's hard for you to address all the questions.
Right. That's
that's the problem.
that was my thinking too, right? I mean, it's almost like it's just a quick, just a quick status check, a run through of, okay, who's got what, right?
Well,
And it was kind of.
there are a couple comments in here that need to be addressed by the board. So if you go, number one, I'm not really. How do I say this kindly?
Like,
You disagree?
I disagree.
There you go.
This comment appears to come from someone that does municipal highway design or DOT highway design. Basically, that line that's showing the proposed grades of my proposed road. So when I have my driveway line coming down in, visually, graphically on the plan, I can tell my driveway grade is matching the proposed road grade. You don't have to flip between multiple sheets to try to figure that out. I label it right on the things, proposed road grade. To me, residential subdivisions, this is common. We do this day in, day out on multiple projects, multiple communities. He disagrees with our presentation of the information.
Okay.
but not really the information, the presentation of the information.
Correct. There was a few of those. He's talking about he has a couple comments in here. It seems to be a big thing on the access down into the detention ponds. I proposed 10-foot wide gravel road, 2-foot shoulders on either side. Top it over with 4 inches of loam. He seems to want that to be 14 feet wide of gravel surface.
Which
I was
gets
trying to
more-
hide the
It's
road.
more
It's,
impervious, yeah.
I was trying to hide the road so it's not a visual, I mean, these are gonna be.
He wants, what does the town require?
There is no
There's
requirement.
no requirement? Okay.
Just access to these.
Access.
Just
We
access.
provided
But the
access.
town is going to be maintaining it.
Yes.
So in the longer term.
Is that the same as what we did up in Hamilton?
Correct.
And that's what Tim requested.
14 feet?
Whatever the design was, he was involved in that discussion with
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, he just wanted structural gravel.
Yeah, structural.
Select gravel with loam on top.
Structural, that's what I have. Structural gravels, 10-foot wide, loam on top, just to keep the appearance of gravel.
Down in there with all that stuff.
And along with that, he's also requesting that there's gates put up by the road, metal gates to keep access, people from going down in there. Again, these are $700,000-800,000 homes to have a big metal gate out in their side yard. Aesthetics, I guess if it's a requirement of the town, I mean, certainly could put them, but do we need gates to restrict access down into these detention pond areas?
Do we have a lot of problem in the town with people driving down to detention ponds?
Well,
Well, we've had
you never know.
some.
There's no tip down at the curb for that. The curb runs straight through, so it's not even evidence of the driveway. It just looks like a graded slope down to the pond.
If we go 14 feet wide gravel with no curbing going across it, it's gonna look like a gravel road.
Big flashing.
You go and you leave your curbing and it's grassed. It doesn't have quite the same appearance. But he's saying here, this is something to discuss with the board. Board needs to make a decision.
The access is to clean it out periodically and things like that. It's pretty much what it's there for.
Correct.
If I can driving down there, once every couple of years or?
Could be annual or checking.
You
on
should
it
go down there annually, semi-annually, if you have a big storm where, potential, you should drive around and check things, but I know DPW staff, do they drive around every storm event? No. That's a common thing in all the towns we work in. It just comes down to DPW.
I mean, I think a gate says, ooh, there's something down there. That's what,
I look at it as an aesthetic issue.
yeah,
It's like creating attractive nuisance.
I'm not worried about a gate. I don't know if anybody has a big concern for gates being there, but I do not.
He again talked about the roadway width. We discussed that. There is a waiver that I'm requesting. The waiver is. I've got it written down, but I'll just do it quick because I know there's other people that want to be presenting this evening. The town requirement is on crest curves, going over curve. K value, which essentially establishes the length of this curve, needs to be 30. In sags, it needs to be 40. When we come up the hill and we approach Page Road, I have a sag curve here of 29.5, where 40 is required. We're 2.2% slope in, we're 2% slope out. The intent, if you're coming down a big hill, right? You're coming down, your headlights at night are gonna be shining into the ground if that's too abrupt. Also driver's comfort, right? Going through, fun for the kids, but dangerous at night. So the idea of that sag, we have it throughout the rest of the project. It's just at this point where we're flat grades coming in. You've got the sight distance. Vehicle speeds are not traveling at the 35. They're coming to a stop. or they're coming off Page rounding this corner. So it's slower speeds. And under the AASHTO standards, slower speeds, you can have a smaller K value. The recommendation, the minimum curve length of curve should be 3 times the design speed. We're about 30 miles an hour here, 30 times 3, 90 feet. We're proposing 125. So based on his comment, we do not comply with the subdivision regulation, but I feel at a stop condition, intersection condition, that K value is more than sufficient. So that would require, based on his comment.
How far away is the crest of that hill
The
to the end of the road?
sag,
No, the top, yeah, right there.
this, looking at about 250 feet.
So is there any, can they see that it's a stop sign from there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're 2% grade, so that's gonna have the appearance of fairly flat. And as they come up over this, they're gonna be able to see right out to Page Road. It's a straight section of roadway.
Does, do we have like any, because this came in late, have like the Public Works need to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean,
That's one.
In Gail's defense, it's the revised plans came in May 31st and went to
Right.
them
Right.
for their review. So that's part of,
Fair.
wondering where.
Yeah, I saw that. So
I don't know what's expected to come around from them, but
So they got Gail's review, they comment on it.
Gail, they provided Gail with revised plans on May 31st. That's when they got them to do their review, and it took them
So 2 weeks
to do their review.
to do there.
Don, you think you have a question?
Yeah, I was out there yesterday. That particular piece that we're talking about, that's coming in off of Page Road. There's open space down to where the mailboxes are going. Lot number 1, I believe, has 300 feet of frontage. I was at the end of lot number 1, and I could see Page Road.
Oh,
It's got to be 500 feet.
That's pretty
It's-
flat area.
It's like, whatever the calculations say is one thing, but when you stand there looking,
Looks
you can
flat.
see forever.
Yeah.
Not forever, but you know what I'm saying. You can see 4 or 5.
Yeah, I've driven past, looked at where that is.
So I don't know how that falls in, but when you look at the calculations, okay, what I'm saying is different. When you're standing out there, standing there looking, you can see the whole length of that 300 feet on that, plus from the mailboxes down to the street, which I think is about another 200 feet. That's 500 feet. There's nothing blocking at all, because it's all fields.
yeah, it's definitely, you can see in quite a ways.
That's the stay in compliance with the waivers that need to be provided in writing, so. Another item I'd like to touch on is, Gail was saying that in the zoning regulations, motorized vehicles are not allowed in the open space. John early on had met with the snowmobile club. They have open, active trails through this property. And we agreed to provide an easement to come up through along White Rock Hill Road, along the back of the property, tie into the existing trail and out. 2 issues. He was saying that 1, we can't put the trail within that 50-foot buffer. And 2, the easements need to be extracted from the calculations. Applicant's more than willing to work with the snowmobile club, wants to hold to that agreement, but at the cost of a lot, can't do that. We're trying to provide them. So the zoning, go ahead, John.
It's not limited to the snowmobile club. It's a recreational easement.
Correct.
If you go out there right now, there's a number of bike paths. There's some snowmobile trails. We're disturbing all those. We're taking them away. So the original concept, when Chris and I, Jason sat down, we said, well, let's give something back. So I met with the board of directors from the board of directors of the Snowmobile Club. I went in, talked to them, they gave me some suggestions. We adopted the one we have here. The intent is, our intent is to do the same thing we did at Hamilton Court. When I go to the board of selectmen, I want to give them a deed, so the 35 acres or 32 acres open space, but I want to put an easement on it for recreational use. And the only motorized vehicles allowed on it would be snowmobiles, nothing else. Now, as far as, I'm not a snowmobile, but I don't think they put up signs where, you know, they just kind of go in their own paths. So I don't think there's gonna be anyone up there surveying. Right now, they're going over wetlands, they're going through wetlands. You've been out there, you see the bicycles going down the streams. You know, we're trying to get away from all that, trying to return something to them, trying to make a recreational dedication here. Because there's a lot of people that walk out there too. So that was the intent.
Yeah, in Gail's comment refers to the zoning and it's an existing use. Are we modifying the proposal and modifying the property from vacant with recreation on it to an open space with, you know,
Because our
recreation? But I mean, given the direction that they were providing for us to lose a lot to provide that access way, I removed it from the plan until we received direction from you on,
Do you need a waiver?
Where in the letter
I
is
guess
it?
it's up to the board.
Which item?
Action, it's on Gail's thing, action required by the board, A2.
Oh, okay, so it's, okay, it's at the back. I didn't see that. Okay.
I don't understand what you mean by you would lose a lot. So they're talking about this right here?
Yeah, so currently the snowmobile trail comes into the property
Right.
right here. We were looking to bring it up in this 50-foot swath around the back and, you know, connect down.
Oh, so you're gonna
into this
change the
existing
trail altogether.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I see.
So if we follow what they're saying is we need to bring that trail through these two lots along the back of the lot. And
'Cause it can't be in the buffer.
Easements are removed from your buildable area. If you remove the easement area, then we don't have the buildable 3/4 acre, therefore it's not a lot. So by trying to provide something,
Yeah.
you know, they're going, kind of going backdoor to, you know, you lose a lot.
And I might add, right now, they're driving through all sorts of private property. There are two butters that I've met with. They go right through their lots. This is private property. They're using this. So what we've kind of done is pull it in a little bit, if you would. Because I mean, they were going through wetlands. They were going over streams. They were trying.
In the reality is too, once we get to the back end of this project and the town accepts the open space, right? Now it's town property. The town doesn't have to abide by their own zoning regulations, so the town can permit it at that time.
Well, I mean, the issue is that you have, well, on White Rock Hill Road, you know, you don't have somebody to bother or, you know, you do have abutters there that you'd be within less than 50 feet of them, which the perimeter buffer is supposed to, you know, be a buffer between the more dense use and the other uses adjacent.
Yes, like, look at Hamilton Court, that back 50 foot is the, you know, is helping protect from
Well, there's more,
Sundance,
right.
which
Oh, right,
here,
the sides.
yeah, where here it's the road, so,
Road for part of it, but then you have abutters at that eastern edge.
yes.
The risk of offending snowmobilers, we should have an agency for quiet.
Well, it's not even snowmobilers, though. You're gonna have other people out there. It's,
Yeah, I mean, as far as the wetland concerned with snow, I mean, it's all frozen at that point.
Right,
Snow
although
cover.
although the issue
Good.
is the noise for abutters.
Yeah.
Really.
All right, so anyway, we definitely do have
Issue to address there.
So what exactly are you saying? You're saying that they can't put the snow and shield trails in the open space? Is what you're
In
indicating?
the perimeter buffer for
That's
open
what,
space
that's what,
developments.
that's how Gail is interpreting
Yeah.
the
There's-
requirement.
The open space developments require a 50-foot
Yeah.
perimeter buffer. And that
Yeah, so
is,
here's Long Road, but this is.
that was
not long.
That's
the
the buffer.
proposal was to put the,
Because if I'm reading, I'm going to read section page 33 of, I think these are the supplemental regulations and standards, article 7. It says that the following uses are generally permitted in the designated open space unless specifically, the following are generally permitted. It doesn't say you can't. permit.
right, but it's not, I don't think the perimeter buffer, I don't think is really considered open space. It's protected as
But what code section is actually listed?
you'd have to look in the conservation subdivision or open space residential development.
I think that's
Zoning
right.
ordinance 702.
Well, it's gotta be in there because it,
Perimeter
Part of the
buffer,
calculation.
vegetated strip along property boundary or public road which is left in its natural state or landscape so that as to limit visibility of the development from the road or adjacent properties or different zoning districts or to provide an attractive boundary.
Code section is that exactly?
702.
I know where in there though.
And definitions.
Oh, it's under the definitions? Which I just,
Very
Oh,
beginning of
perimeter buffer.
702
It's under,
starts with definitions section.
that's
it's
the
under
applicant.
buffer and it says perimeter buffer. In the
Oh, okay.
definition section.
So, with this, so to keep with regs and keep snowmobiles happy, you're talking about giving up a lot.
I have no problem getting rid of the easement. I have absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Yep.
Taking back my gifts. Okay, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't. But the town has to be aware, when I take back my gifts, those snowmobiles are still gonna go out there and they're gonna go wherever they want. What we're doing with the easement is we're trying to tell them where they're supposed to go. I'll take it back. I don't, it's a gift.
Well,
The reason the-
perimeter buffer has to be there no matter what.
But the reason the perimeter buffer is to limit visibility and sight from other thing, not to limit the actual use. So the way it's written here, the design purpose they're saying is, we expect it to be left in its ordinary natural
In a
state, because that
natural-
creates a better buffer.
Vegetated strip.
If there's a 10 or 15-foot wide snowmobile trail, first of all, anytime you have one of those trails, junk goes up on both sides of it, which is actually much harder to see through than the trees you usually have, because that's where the little stuff comes up. If you walk on any of those hiking trails, they have rows of that stuff on both sides. That's just the way, a hiking trail doesn't have that, but the snow machine trails, which are 15 foot wide, have that stuff. The flip side, if there's already an easement on there, there's not much somebody can do about that, because an easement is an easement is an easement.
There's no easement on there right now.
I realize there's not, but I'm saying if there's an easement on the property, I'm just saying if there is an easement on the property and that's been donated to a conservation group or to a snow machine group or something like that, it's there.
Yeah, right.
You
but
can't
that's-
take that away.
right, But that's not what's the case here.
I know there's not now, but if there is one there, there's not much you can do about saying, hey, you can't use the easement.
Well, the easement says what you can and can't do in it is really what the easement language says.
This also goes in front of the board of selectmen for their approval.
Yeah.
So I get the board of selectmen, they may nix the whole thing. The easement thing. Or they may agree with it.
Well, the thing is that to get the open space subdivision, you have to have the 50% open space.
So why don't we just withdraw? I'm gonna take the easement off. We're not gonna do it.
It's opposite.
Yeah, so we're not gonna get the stone.
you're not gonna put it.
We're not gonna do it. That solves that whole problem.
And then, I mean, after the fact, snowmobile club can
Can confront the town.
confront the town, confront, a landowner that's there.
Exactly.
Well, I don't think a landowner,
You know,
it'd be hard to know what can be done because that.
Private property right now, they told me. The abutters have told me, if they go right through their yard, and they allow it because they also ride the machines themselves. If this is gonna cause an issue, I just assume remove it and just do like you said, let's deed it to the town, and if they want it, use it, let them approach the board of selectmen and get permission to use it.
I don't think I don't think it bars. It says, or landscape, so it's limit visibility. You could landscape a trail straight through the middle of that thing. The wording on this thing is ambiguous at best, but I don't think there's any reason why you can't have that in that perimeter. I don't care what, I don't care what some engineer interprets it on.
But it's
They're not attorneys.
defined, yeah, it's defined as a 50-foot strip. though.
I don't want to hold us up. on
Right.
trying
that's fine.
to get-
You open for public at all?
I have not yet. I've been trying to get through our comments so we can talk to public. You know, in the lot what we've had here, you know, even with the lots. I mean, if you lost a couple lots on this, it takes the whole point of doing this.
We've already lost 4,
But
5.
From,
And to be quite honest with you, I was having that thought this morning about maybe scrapping the whole deal. That's how tight the finance. Well, you have to realize.
sure, no, time's
You don't
changing.
realize that, is nobody's even discussed this. We were talking about all this curb and roadway and everything. With the exception of lot M and N, all of these houses have 200 to 300 feet of frontage. And the cost of subdivision is usually 75 to 100 feet. And from a dollar and cents standpoint for Chris and I, we're paying for two roads in front of each lot. The cluster concept was to do smaller lots, shorter roads. This is your 200-foot frontage with your smaller lots.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
and I mean, moving forward, I mean, we've seen other things proposed on this lot. You know, what we've heard from neighbors already on this, you know, there's not a lot of pushback. And the thing is, you know, we've seen what you've done on other projects in town, which has been nice. And in the past, I've seen projects that, you know, a house wasn't able to go in, and then we end up with, you know, what you end up with afterwards isn't so pretty. So, you know, when something is working good and you have a good developer, I like, you know, it's, you know, we obviously want them to do it right and make sure, you know, things are as protected as can be. And so far, that's what I've seen them trying to do. And I don't.
I remember the discussion here on Hamilton Court where everyone said there's not a chance that anyone's gonna build a house on lot number 1, right next to the road.
They look
The house-
nice.
There's a house up there and someone's living in it now, I think.
Yeah,
So obviously, that kind of analysis doesn't go very far.
Now, what I have to say, lot 1 and 2 in Hamilton Court just didn't happen by themselves. Chris and I put a lot there's a lot of, the house on lot number 2.
But the fact is, there's a house there.
I could only do 42 feet for the house. We had to make it work. We put a lot of effort in it. We worked with the excavator and it took some work. But when you drive out there right now, you got 2 pretty lots.
But it's sold and there's a house on it. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this.
so yeah. So anyways, that's my, you know, and we do need to, you know, get this moving of, you know, I know the applicant's hoping for some conditional approval. So, you know, we need to talk about, you know, what, you know, we really need him to do and what we. What's that? Yeah, so let's hear what the public's got to say. Has anybody has, I'm gonna open this up to public. We got any comments from any neighbors or butters or anybody else?
Wow.
Huh?
The fact that the abutters are not here is a good sign.
Yeah, so with that, I'll close the meeting and reiterate on my last comments that the abutters don't have a problem with this, you know, what's being proposed, which is nice because it's going to get developed at some point, you know, so.
One note I'd make is we have the last 1 or 2 nights that were continued. There were people here when we took and continued this,
Yes.
who got up and walked away. So
Yep.
there's obviously someone who wants to make comments. They're not here tonight, so that's.
And in the comments, I mean, we've had
Generally positive.
positive comments about, and they've liked, he has reached out with, talking about measuring wells beforehand and, doing, he has worked with the neighbors,
Just showing one quick.
which I want to make sure is
I have
part of
spoken
this
to a
stuff.
couple of the neighbors since, matter of fact, I spoke to one last night over on White Rock. I've spoken to a couple of some of their concerns, but they're all fine.
So actually, that's one of my questions, some of the things that have been offered about measuring wells, adding a turnaround in the driveway, where do we, where is that, we make sure that stuff is done and available in improving this. I just want to make sure that that's,
Well, I mean, that's, we don't have a requirement for that
No, no.
unless we do.
we don't, well, it's what the
We're
applicant
not
is
gonna,
offering and to, I'm not sure what our mechanism is on, what he's offering and say he's gonna do to hold them to it.
Yeah, well, you don't have a plan, what I say.
What's that?
One of the neighbors, we've agreed to do a turnaround in the driveway. met with a
Right,
couple
but these are
of-
off-site things.
And Tom had some concerns about the wells. He's gonna supply us with a list of about 60 abutters. We're gonna go out and document the wells.
Yes.
I told,
Which is great, and I absolutely believe you're gonna do it.
but again, it's part of being a good neighbor, it's,
Yeah.
it's the way Chris and I operate.
Yes.
So that's about all we're, we're putting some, Tom's house is across the new road from the mailboxes. So I think we're putting 5 trees in there to kind of buffer it.
Okay. I mean, is that stuff that can get noted on
It
the, on the
would
plan?
have to be in a plan or document. and-
I mean,
and
is that-
reflected as part of an approval.
Yeah, can we plan note, just, you don't know what happens tomorrow,
Yes.
so,
Very correct, exactly.
So the thing could be sold. It's maybe
Yes.
not likely,
So-
but it gets sold and you don't have
So
those promises.
The trees are already on the plan. We can put a note on the plan, the
You can
turnaround.
craft notes to put on the cover
Yeah,
sheet.
yeah,
That's required.
Offsite improvement.
okay, offsite improvement, notes.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great, just
We'll document the private agreements.
beautiful.
Also, there's we're also going to record a maintenance agreement for the common driveway. I have my attorney draw that up. So we have it's rather elaborate, but to make sure it gets maintained.
Okay, which is, those two landowners will,
Registry deeds.
Things we have to, what's our list of waivers? And so we have the
Yeah.
conditional use permit. We have
Conditional use permit.
conditional use-
We have the one waiver for that K value.
Yep, which you just, that's the one you submitted.
Correct.
And then what else?
Conditional approval.
It's their only waiver.
Yeah, on the back of my memo, I just have,
Oh, you did?
I listed out some potential conditions.
We have to go back to DPW also.
I mean, circling back to the department head. not a bad idea. Just to double check that.
Right.
I mean, hell, am I- fine.
One of the things that I think was buried within some place that I think also requires a waiver is the establishment, if that's so. shows it, having an association. Because that's actually in our rules and that would require a waiver.
That was one of my questions too, was the open space management. I wasn't sure how that was gonna be.
I don't believe Hamilton
We
had one.
we didn't do that in Hamilton. We just took the deed to the selectmen and they approved it.
There were a
That's
few
right,
simple
that's-
lots.
That's right.
So, and I don't know any of the background here. Is that a discussion you've already initiated with the selectmen? Like, I guess where I'm going with that is, are they?
Well, we have some history. The last subdivision we did, there was a big area that was impacted with, we had the turtle issue, we had a lot of wetlands. The abutters wanted to push the road back. We didn't want to do that, yada, yada, yada. So what we did is we gave the land, we gave the land to the town because it abutted other land owned by the town. And there was a dedication coming forward from the person we bought the land on, dedicate another 25 acres to the town. So to keep everything contiguous, we took the parcel and we deeded it to the town with the condition that it can never be developed.
And that included the stormwater improvements also.
I mean, so in this project, the open space, we're proposing that to go to the town. the roadway will be upon completion acceptance by DPW and the selectmen will become a town road. That leaves all the single lots as fee simple ownership of individual lots with no association because there's no common items of maintenance.
It also leaves the decision with the snowmobilers and walking.
Leaves it all up to the town.
And do the selectmen typically always take open space as proposed? They do.
We've had one, I think they didn't want to, which was that weird 3-lot thing up on White Rock Hill where the land was just adjacent to nothing.
Okay.
I mean,
And in that instance, what was the fallback for space?
forget, whatever on that.
Which,
Those are 3 really long roads that all went in parallel to each other and looked like hell up on White Rock Hill.
yeah, the one across the street from me.
Yeah.
Well, they're right, there are.
Land is adjacent to nothing.
driveways. Well, the thing is that, it's not that the town didn't want to take it. There was an agreement that Bow Open Spaces took the piece and back.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, 50 per, it was really the front half. Is residential and the back half
Yep.
went to Bow Open Spaces.
Let's stay on
Yes,
topic.
yeah. Yeah, let's get back to this plan. We can,
Well, there was.
You ever announced who he was for the record? I don't know if you ever announced who you were for the record. We all know who you are, but.
yeah.
John Williams, Cherry Hill Homes.
Actually, I think he introduced to you at the beginning, but
I'm sorry.
all right, yeah, our little list. There you go.
Don, I wrote a couple things down on
Okay.
this. I don't know if that'd be helpful.
That would be, because I'd really like to get this.
Under waivers, a value waiver subject to department head review is, so that's the waiver plus a condition that I would add. Do we need to talk about the bond or is that just something we normally do?
Under pre-construction. Pre-construction.
It has been prepared and it was.
No objection.
No,
I believe.
I got a letter for it, so.
No comments.
Did you close the meeting to open?
Yeah, I did.
So I don't need to read, well, I don't know if I do, but the list he's got here, then I added selectmen acceptance of open space deed. And then, which is the issue that was just being discussed. And then a review by the department heads of the updated road plan, which may be what you had in mind or something similar to, your bullet 4 compliance with any outstanding concerns. I don't know if you combine those two, but those are the things that I wrote down. I don't know if you guys-
Just. Yeah,
Please.
If we could not include the selectmen acceptance of the open space, because we need to create that lot, final approval by the board. Once that lot's created, then we can bring that lot forward to the selectmen for acceptance. They can't accept a lot that hasn't been approved by the
Wait a
planning
minute.
board yet.
So you're saying
We need final approval. on
we have to vote again on this? I see what you're saying. So
We need final approval on the subdivision in order to
So-
have the lot created that the selectmen.
So what he's saying is the mechanics of this, yeah, right? Like, so go through it all, meet all the conditions, milers get signed, milers get recorded, then the lot exists. Then he's saying at that point,
It goes to.
so maybe you could alter that last condition to say within a period of time or something.
Prior to certificates of
Prior to
occupancy.
CO, I think that's a good idea.
Certificate of occupancy gives the town a definitive point in time to address
Does that make sense?
comments.
I think that's what we've done in the past.
So selectmen acceptance of the open space deed prior to issuance of CO.
Issuance of the first CO.
That's what I was thinking too, yeah.
The first
Yeah.
year.
That's a good idea. Okay. Were there others?
I'll interject just because I don't.
You can add conditions.
Yeah, well, it's talking about the wetlands permit. We have the alteration and terrain permit and state subdivision permit also.
Oh, I
We're
thought,
obviously gonna provide
are
those.
those standard though, like state?
They are.
Yeah.
You should just, it's,
Well, the other question that I have is when the wetland permit was submitted, it was submitted as a major impact project because there wasn't a commitment to follow Fish and Game recommendations, which is required by the rules. So, you know, if it's a major project, then it requires mitigation.
We're currently working with Fish and Game to see if we can meet their conditions. They have not yet given us anything in writing. Once we, you know, I say, once we work through that, or, yeah, I guess if we can work through that, then that would get downgraded to the minor. The amount of wetland impact that we have does qualify for a minor until we work out a deal with New Hampshire Fish and Game with endangered species. It's classified as a major. So as soon as we get through that community.
But aren't those like presumed conditions, state ones? Like if it failed, what would happen?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, it's usually receipt of permits are
Just added a
just
condition
kind of
we
an
need to
administrative
express.
question. Yeah, just get them, put the permit number on the plan and.
Yeah.
Well, as long, yes, as long as no changes are made during the
yeah.
wetland permitting process
Right. Right.
or AOT, you know.
One,
Have a standard list.
one question for the board. Do you guys want to do anything with follow-up on the Gale comments, or are you guys satisfied on the front on this there?
I don't know, I think there are a lot of things that are outstanding. that need to be addressed to kind of.
I mean, we addressed,
Yeah, I actually was satisfied. The K value thing have a condition on specific.
Yep.
You know, I think the relevant piece is the actions required by the board. I mean, we took the snowmobile deal up. We're not dealing with it, right, for now, right, so. You know, the town will be purging, but like, I don't know. Gail is thorough with their reporting, so.
I think we need to move the comments and deal with that, but not the whole thing, not each aspect of it.
Might suggest that we meet with staff to go through and just review Gail's comments with staff.
That could be a good strategy too, just to kind of close that out and make sure.
what else you got over there?
That's it. Review Gail comments with staff to resolve. Do I need to read them again?
Yeah, can you just to go through right quick and
I think I gotta-
then somebody can second it?
All right, so
You probably want to start with a conditional use permit before you get into. the
Yes, yeah. I didn't think that. Conditional use permit is number one.
That would be separate.
Yeah, then a vote on the waiver for the K value with a condition. That I, at least that I outlined, and then final approval with the list of waivers. Or sorry, with the condition, final list of conditions. I'll let you walk through that procedurally.
For the conditional use permit. And we want to take a crack at that here with the,
So what I would suggest is just walk through each one of the criteria items. That's what I'm looking for.
Is the CUP request in here?
Yeah.
Findings required.
Yes. Pages.
yeah, there's a lot of things there.
Was attached into the handout that I provided with colored copies.
That was super helpful, except that part.
That went around.
Pile of paper. This here.
Yeah, so
You're saying walk through Article F?
It's 12.05. 8 through G.
No, it's 10:01. 'Cause it's
Okay, those are the standards for granting a CUP, and then there's the findings required at 12.05.
105 on here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
We need to actually go through like and vote on each one or, okay,
Just, I think as long as the minutes show discussion on it and then,
Yeah.
Brian saying, you can just catch it at the end. In favor, if there was a discussion, you know, if the board said, yeah, you know, we don't think one, that you'd have to cite that one if you voted in that direction.
right. That's right.
But if you're gonna vote in favor, you could probably just catch it at the end.
So if we walk through the wetland piece, Article 10:01. Section A, B, C, to me, all are in a sort of zone of impact, right? The question is, are they minimizing the impact? D says that that's got to be balanced against use, practical use. E is interesting because it's just what we talked about, federal and or state permits have been received. They have not been. So we would have to say that, I'd imagine.
That's no on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were-
Can I just offer a side note on that? So what the RSA say about that is you can, you know, yeah, you couldn't deny because they didn't receive them, but you know, if they're pending, like the process you guys spelled out is the way you want to handle that.
And 12:05 is sort of, did you consider 10:01? And then it adds in other considerations on health and safety, neighborhood compatibility, adverse impact on highway or pedestrian safety. And it adds also, again, natural resources, utility and service, public service.
So, I think we.
I would make a motion to approve the CUP conditioned on receipt of state and federal.
Yeah, any outstanding, there's no federal permits.
Permanent.
That's right.
Probably not, because the state issues it under a program.
I'll say state and federal just in case.
There you go.
There you go.
That would be my motion.
Anybody want to second that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye, nay. I don't think it needs to be minimizing adverse impact to the functions and values of wetland resources and wetland buffers.
Yeah, I just have it. All right. Waiver next. You want to roll, David?
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver, subject to a condition that the K value waiver, subject to the condition that it's reviewed and approved by the.
Acceptable.
Discussion department heads or staff?
For the road department heads, in my opinion. In my motion, anybody can,
See, Matt's not head of the department, you know, there's no head of the department.
no,
No, Tim, basically.
Yeah, I meant, yeah, that's
Fire department.
in the fire, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
right, those
Yes,
departments.
yes.
yeah,
They're okay
specifically
with
not the planning and development staff. Yeah. Yes,
that seconded?
no, not yet.
Not yet. We're still making sure of what it is, the condition.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Yeah, let's have that.
That was with the. It was granted because it carried out the spirit and intent of the regulation. So I understand how.
Yes,
Yes.
right, we talked about it being from 300 to 500 feet.
Yeah. What else we need to do on
how it's subdivision, so.
subdivision itself?
And just say, and then somebody could say it. Let me speak louder. So maybe Dave, if you want to read what you wrote down for the general conditions, and then if somebody wants to bite and say, so moved, and then from there. It's read by David, just that way.
All right, so a proposed motion would be to have a conditional approval of the subdivision plan. The conditions would be to post a bond for inspection of the road by the town's engineer during construction. Post a performance bond for the road once the road is complete. Compliance with any comments made by the town's engineer. Compliance with any outstanding concerns of the department heads, including a review of the updated road plan. Receipt of NHDES dredge and fill wetland permit. We probably maybe already covered that. Completion and execution of common space and open space management document. Receipt of a town of Bow driveway permit. Address remaining missing items from the checklist review memorandum dated June 8th, 2022, as prepared by Brian Westover. Selectmen acceptance of open space deed prior to the issuance of a first certificate of occupancy. State permits and approval are received and recorded. That one may be duplicative. And then a review of the Gale comments with staff to resolve. So not departments, just staff.
We'll do this.
No, just the one compliance with any comments made by town engineer. And then you're talking about the reviewing Gale with staff. Those, I just want to make sure that we're not, are we going back to Gale? Is that what you're intending with this?
I mean, it really should be going back to staff and staff if they have.
Yeah, I think so, right? That's,
Go
yeah.
to Gail.
Yeah, so that, yeah,
But if they got question on it, but it would be to satisfy staff,
Okay. Thank you.
right?
yeah. I don't see a reason to go back to Gale.
What was the next condition just below that? That was reviewed by. There's two right in a row. One we just mentioned.
Compliance with any outstanding concerns of department heads.
Is that the one?
Yeah, I kind of, well.
I mean-
Kind of big brush, isn't it?
It really, it should be
Comments
kind of a staff.
from this report they gave us, right? That's specifically what we're
Okay,
talking about. So
okay,
they
thank you,
gave
thank
a
you.
couple comments. Yeah, sorry, that's good. And
Perfect.
then I specifically noted the road is I think that hits like,
That's the big width of the road.
but yeah, so the comments, just to clarify, in the report we got today.
So with that, Kim comes back and says, oh, no, we want this road 26 feet the whole way, and it's not our regs. I mean, that can get bounced back to us again.
That would be the intention of,
Yeah,
You can amend your approvals and things like that.
okay.
We
right?
would have to file notice for another meeting to come back to discuss that condition,
Yes.
amend that
Yeah,
condition.
hopefully it doesn't get that far.
Yeah.
But I just want to know that Because I don't think that, having this extra wide road all the way would be.
They can work it out between the two of them, great.
Great, yeah.
And then come back and see us.
Right.
And
Sounds
I
we're
think-
close.
Yeah, and I think what they propose is you guys hit the wider areas where it makes a lot of
Yeah, but
sense. So maybe.
Your
let's
argument to that
split the
was made
difference.
sense and what you were looking at doing.
So
Make good
can you
sense.
put someplace in here that the planning board has accepted the width of the road as presented by the developer. To eliminate that, because we're gonna be back again.
Subject
It's like the well issue, there's no,
No, well,
I'd close it up.
no, the thing is that we have public works people and we have our fire department. It's not a well thing because that's an.
Well, no, but they're asking to make the road wider than what our regs
Right.
asked to be. And if there's an area that it has good reason to, I understand,
Yeah,
I guess a recommendation would be if the planning board can clearly state their position that they're in agreement with what we proposed, at least the department heads will know your position. Should we have to come back before the board, they're going to have to present their case, we'll have to present our case. But before entering into another meeting, coming back, at least they'll know where the board sits
I
in
mean,
your position.
I mean, I think that the meeting minutes from tonight are clearly gonna show that.
Okay.
In all this discussion, right?
All right.
That you guys made a good shot to split the difference and say, okay, you guys
We'll
want
talk.
wider in these
We'll
areas.
talk and explain and
yeah,
hopefully not have to come back.
I wouldn't put anything in here
Yep.
to do that, because if they were to say, like, I wouldn't want to say, as you suggested, if I heard it right, that we feel like the road's good, let them review and then sign off. If they have a concern that we're not thinking about, I want them to be able to just raise it. I don't want to cast any judgment on that.
Okay.
My expectation is they're not gonna, based on what you're saying, just from what we've heard today.
Okay, so back to,
That's all I
That's
wrote
it.
down. If anybody has anything else.
anybody gonna, so moved?
Second,
So clearly, I want to clearly understand the 26 Smith Road. So you designed it per the regs at,
Designed with closed drainage as opposed to open drainage, which is the difference in why the road width.
right, and we're gonna go back to the police, not police, DPW and the fire department. If they'll accept 26 feet at where there's guardrail.
I think the better way to put it is that the regs are requiring 22 feet based
Right,
upon the design.
right.
However, the town, whether it's the fire or DPW,
Right,
has expressed concerns with certain areas where there are guardrails because of the way the snow is plowed.
it narrows the
That
road.
results in narrowing at that point, which they're
Right.
concerned about.
Closed drainage is what causes the.
Right, and our first.
More so than the guardrail.
In our first, what's the right word?
The first hearing.
No, the first subdivision with closed drainage was yours,
Hamilton Court, yeah.
right? So we've learned from that, and we're taking comments from DPW and the fire department that that's not wide enough during the winter months where there's guardrail.
Correct.
Exactly.
So we're
So
gonna
if
go
their
back.
concern is more away from the guardrail,
That's the concern. We're,
Yeah.
we're doing the road as is the 22 foot, but we've heard what they've said. We widened it where they were concerned.
But we haven't heard that is.
Is acceptable.
That's what I'd say, that's what I'm saying is that I think the way it is right now, the board, not really make a motion, but the board, I think will state that we find that based upon the regulations, the 22 feet is appropriate. The town has expressed concerns about certain subsections of the road, particularly where there are guardrails. Having heard that, we've indicated that what you propose, where it's wider at those limited locations, should be acceptable. if the town, if the fire, someone comes back with a specific other reason that we haven't heard here, then we may have to reconsider this. But if they don't have some specific, if they just want it wider everywhere because it would be kind of nice, I don't think we're gonna go that direction.
Right, because
If there's another specific reason they haven't told us yet, obviously, yeah, we might reconsider this, but at this point, just, I think that's where we stand. So unless the town comes back, with some major other reason they haven't told us, that you understand that's our position, I think, as far as the motion goes.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So the board is acknowledging that it's 22 feet in the regs. They've done that. And then in a few areas, they've gone above and beyond based on recommendations by town departments. And we're just asking that they swing back and just double check that that addresses their needs. And
Yes.
Yeah, as we understand.
And
objections
and
are,
if there's
that's the
something
problem.
significant we warrant a change, would have to be considered.
Other than what's been set forth here tonight.
Okay. So somebody seconding all that? as a motion, or-
Just to be specific, I didn't make the motion.
No, that's what I'm looking for, so move.
I think, oh, okay, all right.
I'll do a so moved. Sure, why not?
There's the motion. A second?
Can I just clarify something?
Sure.
That condition, is it updated to Willis's language or is it remaining mine, but you're gonna pass that note back?
my thinking would be that you could keep the condition, but the discussion provides clarity and context for what the board's intention is.
Okay.
As that condition plays out.
I'm good.
Okay, who's got the second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Guys have it. All right. Let's-
Got it.
We're good. That only took-
Don't come back for a redesign.
I don't. She got another year, and we make it something much worse that fits within the confines of our rules. We're stuck with rules, so.
The big fact is
Done.
papers aren't out there.
I'd just like to thank all of you. You guys were great to work with. And especially the site walk. I really appreciate all you people that rainstorm coming out.
Get more rain next time. We need more rain.
I appreciate it. We do appreciate it.
Keep building nice projects.
We try. Thank you very much. So we're gonna have to adapt.
We should somewhere talk,
Changing.
Tim in here, if this is an issue with closed draining.
And that's what I'm saying. If we need to change the rules, we need to change the rules. I have no
Yeah.
problem with that. We need to get someone here to tell us that. We
Yes.
don't know that unless someone tells us.
Yep.
I mean, it's like a zoning board when you
Okay.
get a lot of variances. Hey, you gotta check.
Garth, I was just gonna take that move.
I tell clients this all the time. I may not like the statute, but if the rules are the rules, I mean, I'm pretty
It's
liberal.
gonna
but
survive the night.
I'll do some things I absolutely hate, but that's the law allows. And, if we want to change the rules, they're easy to change.
We got it.
So we want to do it.
We're gonna move on. All right, it's 9:00.
It's just,
All right, application 202-22, 60 Ryan Road LLC. Site plan review for proposed 4,100 square foot laydown yard and future 10,800 square foot industrial building, block 2, lot 59 F8, located at 64 Ryan Road for receipt of application.
Hi, good evening. Matt Peterson, also with Keach Norsham Associates, here representing the applicant for 60 Ryan Road LLC. However, I did see a memo to staff that it appears this is 64 Ryan Road, so my plans are all dated at the wrong address. So let me make that correction.
Forgot where it is.
My client was here last year or so to permit the reuse of the refrigerator building next door. The last year and a half's gone very well for him, and he's looking to expand. We tried to contact the piece next to us here, hoping that we could just combine the two pieces and utilize the piece next to it, but that's not available. The piece that is available is the one that's in front of you tonight, which has been split by Evolution Drive now and Ryan Road. Obviously, I think everybody knows where we are in the sand pit back here. This has been paved now. There's a bunch of vehicles that are back out here for Gaponi, I believe, is the end user there. Existing conditions plan, this parcel has a lot, it was subdivided back a little ways ago, and then had a right of way taken out of it for a turnaround at the end of Ryan Road. Then Evolution Drive, they had to get the frontage for their parcels in the back there, so this big bowl was created. So really shrunk down this lot that was here. Currently now it's 1.8 acres in size. It drains from this, basically this granite bound to this catch head wall that's here. This goes down between the two buildings on the other side of Ryan Road to a little detention pond that's back in that location there. Drainage comes off of the circle as they just went through this all with you guys, I'm sure, comes through here and comes back and goes out. We've done some test bits on site for proposed septic for phase 2 of the project. The first thing we worked with and talked to staff about was now that Evolution Drive is here, which creates your hammerhead at this point here, to remove the need for this here if we could. So we're working through with staff and the selectmen to do that. That removes this big bump out that we had to do for a setback on a very tiny lot that we already had. I haven't heard any comments of any issues with that. Again, when Ryan Road was put in, you wanted to make sure you had a turnaround at the end. You now got two basically set up at the end of the road that's there.
Can I just a quick question?
Yeah.
Is that something we have to deal with?
Say again?
Getting rid of that right away?
So they received a waiver to use that as a driveway when you did subdivision. You gave them a waiver from that.
With the
The
previous.
removal of that is not up to you. That's up to the selectmen if they wish to. They can allow access through it without removing, or they can transfer the property over to the.
I feel bad for interrupting your,
That's okay.
but okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so the hammerhead is actually deeded to the town right now, and you're saying you're gonna get it deeded back.
We'd like to deed it back.
Okay, and clearly that's not something we do. That's,
Okay.
that's not the planning board necessarily.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, but I have to show it on a plan and what you guys
Understand.
understand what steps we're going through. And
Yep, yep,
Thank
yep.
you.
Absolutely. If you drove out there today, this week, our demos plan doesn't have a whole heck of a lot on it. There was a little gravel access point here, and we've got the pavement that's up in that location to be relocated. Removed. What we'd like to do on this application, we proposed a two-phase project here. Again, on the piece over here, we got approved a building on the back half of this building. Currently, right now, that's where all our laydown stuff is. We've already got the building designed, and we're moving through the process of doing quotes and bids to get this thing built over here because we'd like the internal space. To do that, we need to find a place for some of our laydown yard. At the same time, we wanted to come to the board with something that made sense in a finished product. So we originally designed this as a 10,800 square foot building with the parking, and I'll show you that on the few pages to come. And then a laydown area up in here, and these two laydown areas would go away after that. So right now, phase 1 would be 3 laydown areas, 1, 2, 3, a circulation through the site, and you'll see on our other applications why it's set up like that. 24 feet wide here, 24 feet here, 30 feet around the back of the building, 24 as we come back in this location here. So we proposed the proper circulation for when we do want to pull a building permit to pull the building on the site. Again, the laydown area is pretty similar. He's a metal steel stud builder. I don't know if you've seen the stuff that's there, it's pretty straightforward steel. Grading and drainage on this site was designed as the full build because everything's basically paved with the building, parking lot and that type of stuff there. These laydown areas are proposed to be paved as well. So we propose the drainage to be collected in a closed drainage system, which would then run to an underground infiltration system, have an overflow system at this location, which would then tie into the drainage system that heads to the east. The flows are very minor. The pre-10 year to this year was 0.83, post is 0.79, slight decrease. The 25 is 1.06 and post is 1. And then the 50 year is 1.29 and 1.29. I think if you guys have seen drainage numbers over the last few years, that's extremely low. Volumes are coming off this site here. Again, we're in the middle of the best sand you guys probably have in the town to be utilizing. We've sloped it, a break line that's here, 1%, 1%, 1%. It's again, very clean, no major changes to the grades. It's flat out there currently today. We showed our erosion control plans. Those things are gonna outline our construction entrances, our silt sock stuff that we're going to be utilizing, our staging areas during construction to be utilized. Typical stuff you'd see in alteration of trains plans if that was required. We obviously don't impact enough to need an AOT permit, but we put that stuff on our plans. It makes it cleaner when they go out to construct it. And hopefully we don't get phone calls during construction and take away from time to do other projects that we're looking to do. This is what the end products we are hoping to have out here. As I said, here's the 24-foot coming in, here's the 24-foot around, 24 around, 30 around. So all we did was take out this area and make it a staging area day one and made sure we graded it. So it's basically pad site ready. And then as we build this site out here and this gets filled up building here, he may need this for himself. He may get other tenants in the area, need half the building and stuff like that. He just doesn't have his end user yet with the building that's here. Again, we put all the parking in front. There was one mistake on this plan here. This laydown area will become grass. Once this parking spaces get put in here, it's not going to stay as a laydown area. The only laydown area would be this area here once this project is the second phase is built out. Grading plan is almost identical to sheet 5 for the laydown area. The only thing we've added to here is an underground septic system that we did the test pits we said for. 2 tanks on either side that go to that. And we also showed the water line, overhead electric and the utilities that needed to go to this building itself. Again, we designed it as finished. It's all pavement now, so it was very clean from the drainage standpoint, pre and post. And then we used train design to do our landscaping design. I think this is a nice landscape design out of Ryan Road that's there. You have a bunch of buildings that did a really nice job down there. We'd like to continue that look throughout the site as we go down the road. We also have a lighting plan, which utilizes the dark star and downcasting lights. We've shown them on the property. However, this one wall mount here is not downcast. That one shouldn't be there, but this one here is. And then the rest of the sheets are the detail sheets, construction details. I think you guys are all pretty familiar with that. We are asking for one generic waiver on this. It's from section 5.02, subsection Y. It's your aesthetic design standards. And basically, the performance standards contained in the business development district are adopted and referenced here and shall be applied to all site plans. And that references the minimum landscape and screening. Again, we've done a full landscaping plan, but there's certain things in there about time of day or time of year and stuff like that and screening that we have not gone to that level on an industrial building at the end of Ryan Road. We think that's a little overkill. We think your business development regs are good for where your business development is. And obviously keeps things consistent in town. But I believe that there should be a little wiggle room on industrial buildings and stuff like that that are moving forward. Exterior building facade, we had submitted plans to that, but again, we haven't gone to the level that your business development district requires on those.
So we don't have the business development district, but we kept the reg, the ordinance. Okay.
My bad. So that makes
It's all I
that
do
makes it
now.
more interesting on that. So, you know, again, it talks about screening, parking, lighting, and environmental. I really feel like we've done a full plan set that addresses all of those. I think the waiver request is reasonable and meets the regulations. I know you have a few more people who've been staying a long time, so I'm gonna keep it simple and short and ask for any questions or comments.
Okay, so, I mean, one of my first concerns with this, and you answered quite a bit of it already, is we did give a, approval for a laydown yard to have a future building, and now, we want to do that again, which says, well, we want to get a building, obviously. The fact that you had stated that you're looking at, once you get room so you can build a building, you're looking at,
We currently
Find
have
out.
the building design and currently have it out for construction costs.
Okay.
Yes. He would like to
And
move
that-
the whole facility. He's in Londonderry right now. He'd love to have it all up here is kind of the goal.
and it's tough to build something without having more lay down area.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You're saying.
Oh, okay. I have a couple of suggestions on the landscaping plan. I think generally it was good, but I would suggest that you remove honey locust and Japanese honeysuckle and find some
Native trees.
more native
I'm gonna have fun with
Option.
Naomi on this. How did she not know those?
option. I mean, most of them were native. They're cultivars, but they're native.
Okay.
But those two Japanese
Sure, that's not.
Japanese lilac, actually,
Okay.
and honey locust.
Oh, those two trees, okay. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to step out. Can you readdress the water plan?
Drainage?
No,
Water.
Yeah, we haven't touched that a whole lot, which I know.
right, domestic water. Fire suppression water.
Is there an issue with the hydrant that's right in front of, I mean, we just showed a utility coming off of the hydrant that's here and right in the building.
So-
Missing on that?
Well, there's a question about the
Water line.
service line coming off of Dunkley Road. And then expanding that,
Evolution Drive.
right,
Okay, I'll take is that one of the comments that came from the water department there?
yes, that was, they never issued a permit for that tap. Or that, for it to be a main. And I know Dave Stack and the DPW are looking at that right now.
And it was installed a smaller one than they
Right.
would have.
Yeah, so there's a lot of contention about that right
So
now.
we're saying this one that's got hydrants off, if they didn't make this line big enough to handle the hydrants?
I don't know all the what fors.
Okay.
There's definitely, there's questions on.
Okay.
Oh, there's questions associated with that main or that stub coming off of Dunkley Road.
So which this is for receipt of application, so, yeah, there's no
I just wanted to give him a
final
heads
approval
up.
tonight, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
which is good, so, yeah, getting the water line figured out.
Yep.
I get a little briefing on that from Larry Haynes today.
Okay,
There's some issues there.
So it's basically where it came off of Dunkley by the new bridge, potentially all the way through, didn't, okay.
Right.
I'll address it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have that answer.
I have a little bit of concern on moving the hammerhead and what DPW, what the plow truck's gonna do, where they're gonna
right.
put the snow to. I mean, I'm not sure that's a lot for DPW and their thoughts of, how they're gonna plow this. I don't know if, going back from the end of the road, using Evolution as a turnaround, if that's reasonable.
What I'm
I'm not sure.
envisioning, so there's two things. Your regulations don't allow me to take the driveway off of that turnaround that's there at the end of Ryan Road. So that's why I want to get rid of that. But at the same time, I'm keeping the exact same pavement that was there. I mean, I'm replacing it with better pavement. We could do an easement potentially to the selectmen that still allow them to turn around in, it, but they don't own the land. So I've got to work through with staff.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what they need, and even, like looking at where that is, it's, which is 60 feet off the property line, and then 60 foot of turnaround area, it seems, and I'm not sure what they need. It seems like the 60 feet to the property line between is really where they should be the end of the road where they're turning around, but I'm not,
Oh, you're saying that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which you're not-
Backing up as much.
trading that piece. I know, which is a driveway right across from that for the solar place.
Driveway off the end for by the ash pit.
Yeah,
Yes.
so does PSNH maintain that for the winter at all? I don't either. Because it is a driveway off the end,
Yes.
so I don't know where they plow the snow to.
It's not a driveway, it's a road. It just keeps going. It just goes straight up the side of the hill at that point.
Yeah. Which it is, well, it is, but it's no longer town road.
Private.
So, I mean, that's gonna be the board's a little bit of question on, how DPW is gonna work with that. As far as the drainage stuff, most of all that's been done and good. And
We've done a half dozen site walks out there. and it's a
Yeah,
flat
and the thing is-
With sand and ticks. About 1-to-1 ratio between the two of them.
So this is for receipt. I do go do a public hearing, all right?
Well, is there anything outstanding?
Under a public hearing,
Yeah.
so you technically have to
Yeah.
come into the floor.
Does anybody on the board have any more questions, concerns with what they're trying to do? I'm not hearing any, this public hearing, I'll open to the public if anybody's here to speak to this.
Yeah, I didn't expect a lot of neighbors.
That, I didn't either, really. So I will close the public hearing.
Motion to accept it for,
Accept the
Yeah,
application.
just that-
for
the
review.
application
I'll
for,
second.
all right, all those in favor?
I,
There we go. We've accepted the application.
We have two things. We've got a request from DPW that third-party engineering review be done for drainage and whether or not you want to schedule a sidewalk.
Okay, so I guess the third party for drainage, I mean, we've seen what the drainage is out there and I don't know, you know,
And it's all sand, right?
it's all sand.
there's so much, and there's so
I
much.
mean, the biggest problem with, it is all sand, but you know, the issue that has come in the past is winter, when it's frozen,
Yes.
is,
yeah.
you know, it doesn't go through the sand. If it's not frozen,
The thing
you
is,
can't keep water, you could,
this doesn't undergo alteration of terrain, so I think it would be good to have a second.
Third party.
Isn't there
So, you know,
a huge
someone
ditch they
else-
put right next to it? And
there is,
when they
where
put
this
the-
goes, where this crosses, there's a swale that goes back and back there, there's a behind the solar place, there's a big
No,
drainage.
but I thought right next to Evolution Drive, there's like a ditch the entire length right next to it too, isn't there, or is that flat?
Yeah, there's a ditch that runs, you know, that'll run
Oh.
between his laydown area and,
Mm.
which is some of the planting actually getting in. Actually, I think there was a
Right, the
question about
DPW
that.
had some question about the planting and
Yeah, it's like, it looked like, what about, like, right on the edge of that swale that.
Yeah, that, you know, we're not planting in the drainage swale.
Just to put off the pavement there.
So, I mean, that's gonna be the biggest thing coming about is making sure DPW is good in their concerns. So that, you know, glad to see it's doing it. I look forward to seeing another building being built across the way. Do we know? You would ask about some timeline too for, because it's just using as a laydown. Yeah.
the original plan had a waiver with a 5-year window for landscaping.
He brought that, in, I think that was.
I think that was carried over from the other one across the road. That was a condition of approval. That was a condition of approval for the across the road, across the pollution, that the landscaping for 5 years. So that's interpreted because of waiting to build the building, and that's why the landscaping was being delayed. I don't know, but the question, planning board in the past, when you allow a laydown area first or something with a, like Felix
Yeah,
across the road, the other side of Ryan Road. They were, I think, granted 3 years for laydown before they had to construct the building.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, so that'd be something the planning
so we'll
board
probably
may look at.
look at that also, what, you know, what your timeline is. One of the other things that I'm not sure about, and it's another DPW question is, you're gonna obviously be having equipment running across the road back and forth.
That's what we tied the two entrances.
Yeah, and you know, what kind of issue there, because Evolution is a town road.
Class 6.
you know.
Class 6, yeah.
Is it class 6?
Class 6.
Accepted yet.
It's not accepted.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a very good quality class 6.
Yeah, yeah, it's only class 6 because the selectmen haven't
And it's
accepted.
paved though, right? It is
Yes,
paved.
it is paid.
Okay.
So the engineering review, is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
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 So I'll have to now, as a board, as staff, it doesn't matter, Du Bois and King or Gale associates, we've worked with both.
Choose the shorter one.
Whichever.
Yeah, I mean, these are.
And you're just asking for the drainage study and that.
Just limited time, and part of the, with initial application, I was here tonight, when Gail was first tasked. Matt wasn't clear that it was just for engineering, so they were actually doing the same review that I had done. And that's why that first report was so long. And then, so he picked up a lot of things that was redundancy, instead of just limited to drainage or engineering.
Do we have to put the municipal water in here?
Their comments on,
We definitely need to,
Yeah, it was.
Reach out to the water department.
that needs to get straightened
Talk
out.
to the water department.
Yeah,
see where that
yeah,
works. They tell me it doesn't work, and I've got to find a solution. They tell me it's your water departments.
Oh, the stub.
Yeah, the stub's not right. Stuff was
Well,
not,
question who's gonna own the line and who's gonna maintain it is the biggest thing right now that they're working on.
yeah,
Okay. I'll get to the bottom of
I don't think we need a site visit there.
I don't think we need a site visit.
No,
We've
Been there.
we've been out there
Happened.
in a pretty recently.
You gotta wait till.
This is an easy one,
Yeah.
you know? I don't have to hide anything, I don't have to walk in, wherever you want to go.
I mean, it's an easy one for you to stand in one spot and this point.
There's some small things that are dying over there, and there's some sand over there. And the ground rises like 3 inches over there.
All right, so I don't, anything else that we need to do for these folks?
Did we accept the application?
We did.
Yes,
Did do
yeah.
that, and
Yeah,
then-
you missed that.
That's right, continue.
Motion to continue.
Yeah, most, there you go.
Motion continued to the next meeting on whatever day that is.
July 20.
Second.
That work for you?
Sounds good.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? See you next month.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yep, have a good night.
Okay. All right.
Easy one for you?
You're back yet? Moving right along.
I thought there was that one.
Application 505-2. R&R.
Stand up here.
Holdings LLC, non-residential condominium subdivision creating 2 units, 2 lot 52 located at 630 River Road. Mr. Geddes, nice to see you again.
Been a while. I don't know how this is gonna go anymore. I'm usually used to working with it up. You have the regular command, Brian? You can just go up there, might be. just put it there. Yep. So basically, all I'm doing is I'm taking a subdivision that was approved
Yeah.
about 15 years ago. And I'm just turning in, so I have 2 buildings
Good idea.
on the existing lot.
Yeah.
Basically, you can see it up there. 2 buildings. One, which used to be at Johnson Road at the bottom, just by the railroad tracks, which was the old propane storage building. And I have a second one that comes in further down towards the boat ramp around the corner, where I have a second building there on a shared driveway. So all I'm looking to do is take those and turn them into condominiums. My understanding is, having discussed with Brian and Matt, is that I technically can do that without coming to the board. But in order to get my tax bill split, the board has to look at it and just make approval. So what I'm asking for is a conditional approval tonight, because I'll change things on the plan that Brian asked for. He asked that the buildings be labeled. I currently have them building 1, unit 1, that we just call it unit 1, unit 2. That the line, so with unit 1, I'm including 5 acres with that building. So for tax purposes, the assessor would have the plan registered that there's 5 acres that goes with that building. And that's how they would tax that building. And then unit 2, which is the other side, would have 10.67 acres. And for the tax assessor, that would become clear that that's what gets taxed with that building, is how that would work. There were a couple.
Technically, it's still 1 lot.
It's all one lot. The line that you see there, we would change to a dashed line, so it doesn't look like a lot line. So we would change that on the cleaned up plan. And I would do that afterwards, after your conditional approval. So the attorney said he didn't want to go in and do all the paperwork, and make sure I got everything squared away with you people. Got your changes that you asked for, and I would just clean that up with staff afterwards.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
what is a condominium? So this isn't two lots.
No,
You're doing this because you have tenants and you have no way to split the tax bill correctly.
correct. Well, what I'm doing it basically for is that I have the ability, I can sell a condo as a unit. So I could sell one building off and that's a condo. Just like you would buy a condo in an apartment. Well, if you took an apartment building,
Still own the whole lot. That's like, well, I
the
think,
lot becomes common owned. But tax wise, that goes, it would be like, instead of, it's not common space, that space goes with that building, that space goes with that, but it's still one building. Same thing as an apartment building. If it had 4 units, you could change it into 4 condos. You bought a condo, you bought a condo, you bought one and you bought one. You have your 2 parking spaces. That's,
right, but it's not really like that.
yes.
No, because you got 10 acres of land and 5 acres of,
Well, and you wouldn't. You're not dividing you couldn't, there's not gonna be multiple people on the same property. Like, I guess,
Well, it is
not
one
subdivide this. Yeah,
go ahead, Brian.
Rick came to me initially to subdivide it, kind of how you see that line.
Yeah.
And our regulations changed to contiguous buildable area. He no longer could get 2 lots out of this.
oh,
Which would
got it.
require a variance. An easier solution than that is do a condominium. He can sell 1 unit instead of selling 1 lot.
Got
He
it.
gets the money
Okay,
from
that's,
the-
I just wondering why.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So really, so you're not lot line, your condominium line,
Correct.
is, I mean, we see that as a different, so we tax that as
So
the,
he'll be lot 2, lot 152, unit 1, block 2, 152, unit 2. So it'll
Okay.
be 2 separate tax bills. It'll be listed as.
I get it, I guess, I just hadn't seen it, and I know the buildings next to me, there's 2, the business space, used to be 29 River Road, I don't know what that number is now. But there's 2 business space, it's condominiumized, so, but I don't know, it's kind of the land part is different, like, I don't know.
That they all own an equal share.
Yeah, how does their tax bill split for the land, or is there one tax?
It all
for the
split
land?
for the land. They all own an equal share. So you
Okay.
folks did the same thing with Senford. When they came in Reichel,
Yeah,
Senford lot, they did 3 buildings and then they came back to do condominium. It was the same idea with that. It wasn't required, but it makes it easier for taxing and
okay,
supposedly easier with the attorney general's
so
office.
this much land goes with each unit?
Yes, yes. And the reason for saying this land goes with this unit would be like parking spaces.
Yeah,
You get 2 parking spaces, it's in your deed, this is your space for parking. You get 3 because you got a bigger unit, you get 1, et cetera. So that's why we divided it off that way. It's just an easy way to do it and it clarifies, this is their space they can do something with, this is their space, the rest is still common as far as total. That's in,
then what's that do to the value of the land,
to decrease it, I would expect my tax bill to go down considerably.
I feel like the rental value. will
I was
just-
I was thinking it was gonna go to more,
Come
but.
on now.
We're trying to, make more property value.
Quite often, the first acre is the most expensive, so if he's breaking it into 2, he actually has 2 first acres out, so it actually likely would go up.
So individually for him, it goes down, but for the town, it goes up in a way.
Correct.
Well, it's his tenants.
Oh, no, he owns.
But you still are gonna own both.
I'm going to own both at this time, yes, yes. It just gives me the ability to do something with 2 buildings in the future. That's what it's basically. So the things I had to clear up were, they just wanted, and I guess I would give that to Brian, the condominium declaration, condominium bylaws, and the application to the Attorney General. So that's all, the lawyer will handle all that. I would turn that over to Brian once I get that. On the paper, they want the legal description with the block number and things changed. I'll have the actual address, correct thing on it. The map location sketch, changed Johnson Road to River Road. That's because they took it off the old plan when it was Johnson Road. We'll have all of that cleaned up. And then I have my waiver request, so I have quite a bit of a list for you here. On waivers, would you like me to go over those?
There's 9 waivers. They're on the screen. They're in your packet.
Okay.
So when it comes time, the board should decide they want to approve this, they can just reference the waivers as on the letter dated.
So basically, the waivers are that I'm not asking for a new subdivision. These are all things that were approved. It was all done according to the board when I did this.
They're all approved lots.
Everything was all approved and done beforehand. Yes. Yes.
They're all on page 2 of the memo I did too.
So you're gonna run through those, right?
You want me to go through them?
Why not?
State grid coordinates, 3.02A, US GS data, existing proposed contours, 3.02B, 6.03L, 6.04C. Lot boundaries, maximum distance between monuments shall be 500 feet, 7.04. Designation of unsuitable land with certification of wetland scientist, 6.03N. Location type of all existing ... utilities, gas, electric, phone, cable, 6.030. At least 2 ties to New Hampshire State Grid Coordinates, 6.03B. Water courses, flood locations with base flood elevation per FEMA, 6.03D. Soils delineation and legend, 6.03M. And lot area table, 6.04H. So those would be the waivers. If, the way I see it is I would be looking at waiving those if it was a new subdivision. This is an existing one. So
Yeah, well, you're not changing the lot.
we're not changing anything. We're not.
Gonna make you put up
Everything is there.
monuments.
All the parking is pre-existing. Everything is staying just as it is. Nothing is getting changed other than we're gonna call it.
You're drawing a line down the middle of the property.
Putting a line for tax purposes. Yes.
All right,
And my one comment, he kind of touched on it, was just have a plan note on there stating it's not a subdivision of land. It's just a crystal clear purpose note that when you add the dash line, it'll be clear to anyone,
Yes.
not here, 10 years down the road, they pick it up and they say, oh yeah, this isn't a subdivision.
Yes, that was on there. And I would go over those with Brian once. I will have the map, the plan redone with these changes on it, verify it with Brian prior to final. That would be my condition.
Yeah.
So, pretty simple, huh?
yes.
Not usually that easy.
So, it is a public hearing, so I'll open this to the public. Anybody's got any comments? All right, I will close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to accept. Here's the. We have to do that first, right?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
I will make another motion to approve waivers,
Rick just read off.
yes, that Rick went through. All 9.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
I'll make another motion to approve the application subject to conditions noted. I can read them. Completion of the subdivision checklist review items as prepared by Brian on 6/1/22. And I think, Matt, you just mentioned this, add a note on the plan specifically indicating the intent of the plan, specifically that it is a condominium and that it is not a subdivision of the parcel.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Hopefully you continue that.
All right.
Second, did I second?
Yes. Sandy did. All right, moving along. Application 405-22, Amber Bow Associates LLC, conditional use permit for reasonable exception for 288 square foot sign in non-residential district. Block 5, lot 42, located at 75 Dow Road. So we're gonna do these two separate because they're kind of.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Andy Perlman. I'm an attorney in Nashua, the law firm of Premier Coleman here on behalf of your applicant Amber Bow Associates. Susan Levine is with us tonight, project owner. Tim Berrier is the project engineer. And Mr. Chairman, with respect to the sign application, we would ask that that be tabled till your July meeting because we would prefer to spend the time talking about the site plan application that's before you.
Okay.
That's the meat of our application. That's going to take some time.
All right. So you need a motion to continue that?
I'll make a motion to continue. I will note also that it's a really ugly sign. It's been sitting there as a large piece of plywood now for a couple of years. Clearly, I'm the only person who drives by
Okay,
it,
let's,
but
it's the same.
FYI, I know you want to get it finished. but
We agree.
I'd really like to be done. Anyway. Is that part of your motion? Yes. But anyway, I'll make a motion to continue till the July meeting on the 21st.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 5. Application 203-22, Amber Bow Associates and Sarah Santee Estate. 3-phase plan to add 6 warehouses, one 40,466 square foot, one 24,373 square foot, and 4 35,467 square foot buildings. Block 5, lot 42 at 75 Dow Road, and lots 47 and 48 located off Baker Road for receipt of application.
Chairman, again, for the record, Andy Perlman, for the applicant, here with Tim Brennan, project engineer. This, you folks heard this on a conceptual basis back in April. The application was submitted in May. In between May and today, there's been a significant change in the application that we're going to walk you through. And what that was, the water system is going to be a well and a cistern, as opposed to the water line that was being discussed with the town to run the water line up 3A, up Dow Road. And the reason for that was just timing and control of the project. Peter Levine wants to get this moving. I'll go over our schedule with you. But it was looking like the water line was going to take a lot longer than what we were anticipating. So the well and cistern for fire suppression needs is the better route for the project to go at this time. That's the big change that you're going to hear about. Substantively, the buildings all kind of lay out the same for what with the application came in. And we have a lot of work to do with the fire department and other town departments. So we're going to be doing that over the next few weeks. What our goal is to have a good discussion tonight, have a discussion, further discussion in July, and we are aiming for a conditional approval in August, such that with the goal being we get in the ground by October 1st. Right? If we're in the ground October 1st, we project that we would be delivering the first building to a tenant by the end of the first quarter next year. That's what we're aiming to do. That's an aggressive schedule, but we think we can do it. But that's why we wanted to start it tonight. So with that, I would have Tim kind of walk us through what he's presented. And again, we know we have a lot of outstanding items on the checklist. We're gonna get there. We're gonna work through all that. So have at it.
Can you bring?
See the file here, but. Want the site plan over?
Overall, yeah, either one of them. Okay.
Perfect.
This is basically the same site plan we went through before.
Right, so we've been working on this every day since I saw you guys last, and the buildings haven't changed, but the grading and drainage and everything else has all been revised extensively. And then 2 weeks ago, Peter made the command decision that timing wasn't going to work out. We needed to pursue a private public water system. So this will be a public water system. Whenever you have more than 25 employees using a water system, it has to be a public system. So this will be a public water supply system. There's a lot of criteria in there. We're going to take about 700 square feet of the first building, which is the one on the bottom, and dedicate that to a secure. So one of the parts of a public water supply is that its distribution system is controlled so that people don't have access to it and can mess with it. So we're going to dedicate 700 square feet of that. It's going to be where the water is collected from the well and pressurize the system. And that's all going to be in a secured room in that building. As the other side of this going private is fire protection. So just below the public water supply, you'll see 2 blocks. That's a 90,000 gallon fire cistern We're working with a fire consultant. So these buildings are over 12,000 square feet, so they have to be sprinkled under the new building codes. So this system will also have a pump house. Both pump houses will have a backup generator and backup systems. Little less important on the drinking water side since it's commercial than in a residential, but it'll still have a backup system. The cisterns will pressurize the sprinkler systems in the building. So that's the alternative to having a town water system where the water lines are all pressurized already. We're going to store the water in the tank, and when a fire alarm goes off, the pump kicks on and pressurizes the sprinkler system inside the building. So it's a dry system essentially until the fire alarm calls for water and then it clicks on. So that's kind of one of the bigger changes to what we had presented a month ago. Everything just is falling a week too late. We really wanted, Peter really wanted to get the application in, and I kind of tried to tell him that, maybe we should wait, but he wanted to start the process and get feedback from you guys, and it turned out to be kind of good. It's sort of been worked out kind of like a design review process. The comments from the town so far have all been helpful, but I don't really have any issues with those. I think the big thing now is it's a big project and the fire chief has some concerns. So we're going to go meet with the fire chief and make sure that we can meet all of his concerns. And now that we have that different type of fire suppression system, we also want to go over that with him. So his comments seem to be, and logically that would be the case. This is, there's no residences here. This is all businesses. Fire protection, looking at it, would probably be one of the bigger concerns. So we're going to go meet with the fire chief and review his concerns and address those. And I really see that as the biggest issues. Of course, AOT permit, the drainage out here, we have vast asphalt areas for the tractor trailer trucks and the loading docks. And all that runoff had to be collected. The soils out there are sea soils, they're not very good soils. So we have two very large ponds. One you can see in the front right, and then there's one in the back as well to deal with the stormwater management facilities. That whole back area off the back of the paved area is a large forebay and a large retention pond for treatment to meet AOT's groundwater recharge specifications and requirements. The site's pretty compact. The total acreage of the lot is worked out to be 44 acres. You can kind of see, you don't even get to see all of it, but if you go to the top of that page, the wetlands, we have no wetlands impacts with the development. There's a drummel, if you will, that runs right through where the buildings are. That's like a high ridge, and then it goes down behind the buildings and it goes down in front of the buildings to the highway. So we were able to put this up on that ridge and not impact any wetlands. All the wetlands are in the back. They're going to be on the other side of the pond, so they're going to be protected. You can't get through there because it literally is a pond. So you go down and up and you can't. Those are berms around the pond that you see there. So there'll be a pretty large area behind there that's protected, and that's where the wetlands are. Some uplands in there as well. I think that worked out pretty good. It also helps, we're down by the highway, so a wildlife passage through there, it works out pretty good too. I think that element of it, the land kind of lended itself to some pretty intense development on that drummel that we proposed this on, and the downside was the drainage class was not great. So, but we've gotten through that. We'll be submitting the AOT permit and get the drainage report to you guys next week. The traffic study last month, the intersection with 3A. I was really hoping to have Steve Perna here tonight to talk about that because you had mentioned that it was a concern, and he's just buried and he's going to get it done next week. So everything was falling a week off for me. So I apologize for that, but we recognize that we don't have everything completely finished for you guys, but we did want to get the process going, address, so that take advantage of this opportunity to hear any concerns that maybe we can incorporate at this point into the project. And the comments from staff was really helpful. The buildings, we also submitted some elevations of the buildings. They're going to be concrete. It's like a pre-stressed concrete panel building, 30 feet tall. So they're reasonably attractive buildings for what they are. Yeah, there you go. So it's made up of concrete panels that are stood up on the bottom on a steel frame, flat roof. Yeah, they're not bad at all. We still have the lighting we still have to do. We just finished the drainage and got all of that to work. So we still have lighting and landscaping to do on there as well. So we still have some things that we have to get taken care of. But would really like to answer any questions and get any feedback that you guys might have, especially if you have any concerns about the water system or fire suppression.
I have a question. Where do you anticipate that the well might be?
Right in the middle, you see where the circle, those are the
Okay.
protective wall radiuses,
The target.
the target, yes.
You won't be able to get a chemical monitoring waiver with all the parking that close, so.
Yeah, we considered putting it way out back where the wetlands were, but then we had to build a road out there. And we were the road to get around the pond became pretty substantial. And we looked at the regs and it wasn't, this does seem to be approvable. We just did a well very similar to this in Pembroke for a commercial facility, and it went through without any issues. So there are monitoring anyway for public water supply.
Right, but you can't do reduced monitoring because you have
Parking.
too many, the parking primarily.
Are you gonna run pipes so that it's able to access public water when it gets up to there, or what's the? I assume the public water is gonna go up there at some point. It sounds like.
Well, actually, I mean, part of extending the public water and up there, that was looking at he was gonna have a good cost getting it from 3 up there. If he has water there to spend that money and after he does this, I don't see it going in. I'm sad, that we don't have a piece that's gonna help pay to get our water system, partway down 3A. But I'm happy to see that, he wants to get some real buildings up here, because who knows when water will get here.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of a bittersweet piece. The sweet part is that they're looking at, getting this done right away, because he's right, water system would be years before it actually,
We could actually get it, yeah,
you'd be a couple anyways, before you could actually,
before we could even start.
Right.
yeah.
You can't really get anything going in financing if you don't have water. So this way, we're looking at 6 months.
Yeah.
We're working on the preliminary approval for the location. of all.
If you could do a 1,000,000-gallon cistern up there, you could probably sell it as the water tank to the town.
That's there's a.
Then I had asked that question, I think at one of the BDC meetings was, when they were talking about placing the well and this, placing a tank.
Yeah.
It seemed like this was actually, if there was space to put a tank on this lot.
Yeah.
Which would serve your purpose, would serve, for the water system, and they're looking at doing another tank. And we'll have to get it all the way up to 89 up to here. And
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, so it's really the fire system.
I don't know.
It's not.
Fire system with this type of design, the fire system is completely separate from the public water.
Yeah.
The domestic water service cannot interact with because that water just sits there and stagnant.
Oh, yeah, you wouldn't want to drink that.
And all that, yeah, so you don't want to go there. So they're completely different systems. So they're parallel lines.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, so, everything's really kind of coming together now. We've got to make sure the fire chief's good with access around the buildings. But really, we really beat these things up pretty badly to make sure that we're gonna meet AOT because we don't want to submit that. We have done a wildlife study. It is, it's all woods now, so it's a wildlife habitat now. But the highway's right there and we did preserve a pretty large corridor behind the development that's gonna stay wooded and protected. So I think we're doing the best we can with that.
Any NHB hits there?
Yes. Yeah, that's
Snake, hognose.
the hog, yeah, all the normal ones.
Well, especially for the sandy areas, right?
Yeah, there aren't very much sand out there, but
Stands on the other side of the interstate.
Okay.
yeah, wish there was some sand out
So some of your conceptual drawings there, I mean, these buildings are gonna be seen from the interstate.
we're quite a bit higher.
You're quite a bit high, so it's gonna stick up and
Yeah, so you'll have to look
they're
up.
gonna notice that there's some business in Bow when
Oh, yeah.
they're up the interstate.
Oh, yeah, you'll definitely see them. But it is quite a bit higher than the highway. The highway's quite a bit lower. Yeah,
No, that's not a bad thing at all.
Oh, that building's not in a place where any building is gonna go.
Right.
right. This is that was where.
That's what the sign is.
Right, that's what the sign is.
The building's go 300 feet down the road.
Yeah, that was all just soil. So the existing development was done in 1982 and we're just gonna leave that. We reduced the flows from there. We've intercepted a lot of water, but we're kind of not touching it because it's all 1982 development. And we just said, if we start messing with this, it's gonna all downhill fast. So we're just kind of left it. The only thing we did do is create an organized parking lot for that development. Right now, they just sort of park everywhere. And I noticed while we're over there surveying that some of the guys have their own do not park signs. So when they leave, they stick it in the ground, they park their car, they go, and when they come back, they take it up and put it back in their car.
We're not in Boston.
So a good organized parking lot, I think, is gonna be well suited to that. The fire chief was concerned about access, but those driveways, they're 24 feet wide with 3-foot gravel shoulders. It's an industrial, it was designed for an industrial park.
That's what.
All those turning radiuses are for a W50 tractor trailer truck to get in each one of those intersections. So when you look at it like this, they look like little driveways, but even those alleyways, they're 28 feet at the intersection in order to accommodate the turning radius. And then they go to 24 with 2-foot shoulders. So those are 24-foot wide driveways to accommodate tractor trailer trucks getting in and out of there.
What do you have on the 360-degree access? Because obviously there's sides of the building. The two outside and then the inside of the two, number 2 and 3, which you really don't have, as well as the bottom one. Is there some way to get around that? That's one of those things I noticed in there. They said they want 360
Yeah, that's what we need to talk to him about. Certainly the grade would accommodate it. Really, because of the soils, impervious surface might be an issue. So we're gonna comment, and actually what I'm proposing with him is a fire lane that is very similar to what you just discussed with access for the DPW to maintain the ponds is a structural gravel with loam over it, so that we get the drainage class. We don't get the impervious surface, but 3 inches of loam and some grass isn't gonna stop a fire truck, so they would be able to drive around there. And we're hoping that will meet his criteria. And 360 degrees, we may not be able, because in the well, we may have to move the well in order to do that. If he wants to do it, I don't know. We really gotta talk to him. I mean, if you can drive up to the well's only a wellhead. So you can drive up to the well and then you can drive up to the well on the other side. Is that 360 degrees or does he have to be able to make that turn? Those are things we need to talk to the fire chief about and get his feedback on those things. Right now, you could drive, the way it's designed, the grading, we'd have to adjust the grading slightly in a couple of spots. I was looking at it this afternoon. You could drive all the way around the building with the exception of the lower one. There's a septic system that's in the way to get all the way around the building, and the well, the public water supply well. Those are the only 2 things that are preventing you from driving all the way around the building.
It seems like those sides, I mean, if they can't hit it from the back of the parking lot, they're it's what, 50 feet to the corner or something like that. The hose can go that far, I would think.
Right, and the new NFP codes, I just, for the longest time, the argument for sprinklers was if your building has a sprinkler in it, by the time the fire department shows up, the fire's out. But now they want to have that 300, they want the sprinklers, they want 300 access, they want outside fire hydrants. It's like, wait a minute, I thought the fire was gonna be over here.
It's wide town roads.
The trucks like they have an Aspen, which are like all four-wheel drive, off-road fire trucks.
So what's the phasing? The 3 phases, what's?
Right, so the next sheet shows the phases. Essentially, it's 2 buildings a phase. The first phase is pretty big because we're gonna build the road all the way in. So the first building at the bottom is the first building. That building's gonna get built. So the driveway's gonna go all the way in past their front parking lot. The cistern has to go in, 90,000 gallon cistern has to go in, and the public water supply has to go in. And the first building on the right is also part of phase 1. So those 2 buildings are part of phase 1. So the phase line goes up just on the left-hand side of the driveway, but does include the cistern and the well. So a lot of public improvements are gonna go in as part of phase 1. And then phase 2 is the next 2 buildings over. And phase 3 would be the last 2 buildings. But in talking to Peter's vision of phases is he's gonna build the first 2 this year, the next 2 next year, and the 2 after that, the year after that. So
I mean, some of that's probably, yes, as long as you get tenants to get these built.
Yeah, and let me, not to be flip about it, let me just say that, first of all, these are the kind of buildings I have built throughout New Hampshire. I work very closely with the broker who's very tuned in. The tenants I already have, just to give you an idea, whether I've got Cintas is in the building. I've got a Boar's Head distributor. I've got New Hampshire Bindery. I've got a bunch of small businesses. So these are, these buildings will be divisible into 2. So the 40,000 square foot building, the initial building, could be 2 tenants of 20. It's going to be divided, built, so it could be subdivided. And so I don't know, but the guess is, because there's, despite what may be going on in the macro economy, but right now there's a pretty strong demand for this kind of size. I'm not looking for 150,000 square foot warehouse. I'm looking for, and I'm not looking for a 40,000 square foot warehouse. If I get one, good. But these are small businesses, 15, 20,000, maybe a little more. And so I'll build as dictated
If
by.
by phase 3, somebody's looking for one really big building, you could be coming back for some money.
Yeah, right. I don't want to, I'm not looking for it because from my standpoint, a risk standpoint as a landlord, I'd rather, you got to balance it, but I'd rather have a bunch of smaller ones than one big guy who could sneeze and.
If one big guy leaves, you have an empty building you can't rent.
Yeah, my wife won't let me do it, so.
Smart wife.
So what do we need to accept this, to get this going, I guess?
There is easy amount of checklist stuff here. We have some general plan stuff, like some small things, right? Like your grid coordinates, copies of state applications. We have to waive that stuff. No, these are just, so.
Things that will need to come in eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, so is this complete enough to accept?
To accept, right.
At this point.
The town, if I can hold on 1 second, Matt, I just want to explain why I'm staying out of this. We have a town ethics policy that prohibits me from commenting on any surveyor that I have personally hired. Tim has worked for me on a personal basis, so I cannot comment on anything. So Matt's actually doing an entire review on this.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's too bad.
If we had known, I would have said no.
I would have gotten another engineer. What, are you kidding?
But we didn't know until it was too late. So here.
But yeah, there's there's some minor plan stuff. A couple of the big ones, the drainage and stormwater calcs. You know, those were a big one. Typical views of the elevation, we actually got that, some lighting plans. Some things like that. Those are kind of the big ones. Stormwater calcs, lighting plans. Traffic study, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? If we do accept it, you said you were looking for an August approval. So you plan to come back in July and August?
Well, if necessary, right?
Yeah.
But again, the goal is we want to be in the ground October 1st.
Yeah.
We figure it's going to take a meeting or two to get through this.
Yeah, so if we accept it, you know, I'm sure the next meeting in July will be, you know, they have a good checklist of what they need. Hopefully they can
Put the meat on the bones.
Yeah, you can get all of that.
I can't speak for Tim, but I will.
Otherwise, you won't
You know,
work.
If somebody is calling back to my car afterward, but we're gonna get, you know, I mean, some of it's third-party stuff. Tim has humped this with this change, with the water thing. We're gonna get you these things. I'm hesitant to say this, but I hope within a week prior to the next meeting, get you everything.
Yeah, next week we should have the drainage report. The lighting plan will be later because that's a third party. I don't control them. But
Yeah, it's kind of.
the big
No-
stuff.
Nobody's got real big plans for the 4th of July, do they?
So, yeah, no, we really feel, like I said, I really was hoping to, you know, I thought we jumped the gun a month early submitting it, but I was really hoping we were gonna have these and we missed it by a week. So everything's gonna be submitted for your review.
Was there, you guys came before in April? I don't think I was here. Was there public comment?
No, well, no, it was just a conceptual
Mhm.
meeting, you know,
Right.
and the big concerns is traffic, in traffic at Dunkley and 3A. That's, you know, it's gonna put a lot of trucks.
That's right, because you mentioned traffic. So what I was thinking, just to understand is. if you come back
That
next
one,
month,
3A.
And then there's,
Yes.
and we come back next month, there's a whole bunch of people saying, what about a traffic study? What about, because there's all the things, and we say, oh, shoot, you know, you should go look at that, and then it's another month, right? So I'm just trying to think ahead.
Right. We don't want that, so we're gonna make.
Yeah,
sure
okay.
we have
I
this.
mean, with that, I mean, I'd be fine.
I mean, one of the other concerns is the 93 underpass, and
They have repaved that.
Wait, let me speak to that.
They have repaved
No,
it. God, it's
no,
expensive.
Unfortunately, it was not done right. So I did speak to Tim Sweeney. What they did, and I understand why they did it, was sort of underneath the 93, water was ponding and whatever. So, and I guess there's a plan, you know, there are a lot of plans to do the road and this, that, and the other thing, but he wanted to get it addressed. He got
It's rough.
somebody local to do it, and I don't know who it was, and I'm not casting aspersions on anybody, but he actually created a little bit of a hump in that, which was really not good, because you could barely put an 18-wheeler, and then with a little inch and a half hump, it makes it even more precarious. I did speak to Tim, and we can talk about this next week. But I said to him, I would agree, and I'm gonna have Severino do my site work. So I said, before we do anything, and we'll submit a plan, I would like to refeather that and grade it on both sides of 93. So I don't have, so there isn't a hump in the road, and it's graded right, and, you know, so there won't be water ponding. And so we'll feather it on both sides. So he said, sure. So as part of what I'm agreeing to, I will agree to not reconfigure, but
yeah, I know, well, that's, you know, one of the concerns, which was,
No,
and
you-
it was really rough, and they had to do something.
No,
It was
for
really
sure.
bad.
So they didn't want water ponding, but what I'm gonna do is on both sides,
You're gonna-
I'm gonna feather it so it can be a little lower and still not pond.
It wasn't the water ponding, it was the giant holes under there. You couldn't.
Well, that was the pond.
It was so dark.
Well, you know, maybe I put a light in there. I'm kidding.
John, did you open for public?
I have not,
Okay.
I have.
so I will.
Okay.
I'm not seeing a whole lot of public here, but we'll open it to the public. Anybody standing outside? And I will close the public hearing. Nobody from the public wanted to come out tonight, I don't. They're watching us on Zoom.
How long it would be.
Yeah. But I mean, so they have a complete enough package to accept it.
I mean, those items that, traffic study, landscape plan, stormwater study, some minor stuff on the plans, those were the items that I saw as, that's why I put, not complete right yet in my memo, so. But if you guys wanted to, and there's an agreement of some sort that, those things are coming and the other missing checklist items are addressed, maybe.
Yeah.
If that's what you guys want to do.
It just starts the clock for you.
Yeah, it just starts the clock. That's the big.
Yeah, but we can continue with the applicants.
Permission,
Continue to, yeah.
the request.
Right, so let me just play this out. If we were to accept it, and so the clock starts, whatever it is, 60 days, right, 90 days? And we don't get that stuff in, is that grounds for us to deny it later?
Yes,
Yes.
Are we sure? It's not super clear in the regs if I'm being honest.
Well, if they don't have everything complete, I mean, we don't have to.
Accept
But if you
it.
accept it,
Well,
You accept it, you're saying
but you can
You're
accept
saying.
it and then still deny it.
sure.
I think,
I can do that, but you have to have a ground to deny.
A ground.
It's not as,
Well, deny that
So-
they didn't.
you show me in the regs where it says that. It's a little tricky. I don't think it's just crystal clear is all I'm saying. I would accept, but I might say we should add a condition that stuff that Matt listed comes in the next 30 days, before the next meeting, for example.
so I would actually ask a question. What's the benefit of, except if the timeline is still, those 3 meetings, right? What do we get by accepting it versus what do you potentially?
If we accept it this time, we have the ability, I suppose, to approve it next time. If we accept it next time, then they're
Yeah.
gonna have to kick back to the August one. Now, it doesn't sound like you guys are expecting to have everything finished by next time anyway.
No, we do.
We could.
But
Oh, yeah.
you could. All of your stuff, but we wouldn't have the AOT permit, and we don't have any wetlands impacts, we don't have to wait for that, but we would not have the AOT permit in hand.
Right, I just make that a condition.
But you're gonna, let me be clear, and I'll accept the, whatever condition you put on it. I mean, again, Tim may jump me on the way out of here, and I can't control Steve Pernod. But we're gonna respond, we're gonna get you what is on that checklist, certainly before the next meeting. And, and again, you don't know what, we have been in town. I want to get this building in the ground. So I'm gonna dog this list to make sure you get it. So if you want to make that somehow a condition, but if nothing else, it would make me sleep a little better tonight.
I mean, you'd like to see us accept this tonight.
I'd like to, yes, if you don't mind.
Well, I guess the question is, do we need to accept it to start like the engineering review or?
I
when it
don't-
comes in?
I don't think you do.
Okay.
No, I mean, they know they gotta do it anyway and get the ball rolling. I
Right.
mean, just to kind of say, I think one thing that could be helpful is, so you guys have 2 engineers that you use, it sounds like. Maybe just, start identifying that and getting those things moving from the staff perspective.
If you guys want to go for a sidewalk too.
Yes,
Site
yeah.
walk.
I was gonna mention those two very things.
Yeah.
We want to pick an engineer, do you want to schedule a site walk?
Yeah.
Again, in the interest of.
Yeah, those are definitely great things. Pick the engineer.
It's all work.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say.
I'm just wondering, like, I appreciate, Matt, what you said. Why would we accept it? But in the spirit of trying to help move things along, to give an option of potential approval in July. If we accept it today, but put an express condition that everything that you noted has to be delivered before the July meeting.
Yeah.
What that would do is if that doesn't come in, it effectively rejects the acceptance. And then they're back at square one, like we didn't accept today.
Well,
So it's like to me, it would be an automatic out.
Just continue it. I mean, you just,
If
they could ask for continuance.
If you scheduled a site walk and told us who the engineer was, so that if I can get all these things, if it gets the drainage report, which which is the key thing for the engineer, to you next week, and you know who to give it to. So they can review it for next.
And we need to
It's all
accept
gonna
it
be the same,
to do that.
whether you continue
I
it.
don't know that you need to accept it to identify an engineer.
I would agree with the condition, because, I think we're gonna dog it. We're gonna get you your engineer, you're gonna identify the engineer, we're gonna have the plans in the next period of time, you'll do the site walk. And if I don't get them in, then you punt, I'll take that risk.
Brian's.
Brian, are you?
What's the procedure for when, so deadlines for submission of revised application materials is 7 calendar days prior to the next regularly scheduled. So if you were to make a condition, I would say you should try to abide by your rules.
7 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
So give them 3.
14.
That's July 14th.
So why don't I make a motion that we will conditionally accept the application is conditionally complete upon receipt of information comporting with the fire chief's request that there be 360 access, or at least better access, keep the whole thing down here, to all sides of these large buildings. That you've addressed any public works requests regarding water main. I know it sounds like that's been addressed because of the well, but I'm not sure any of their things that need to be addressed there. You are complying with any recommended revisions by the town's engineer. Obviously, that needs to be reviewed by him at this point. And that you have the appropriate lot merger forms filled out. I'm not sure what those are exactly, but it's noted here in the report. And that this can all be done by July 14th and submitted to the town at that time, at least 7 days prior to the next meeting.
Can I just add, including the stormwater report and the traffic study?
Yep.
Anything else on your list? I was just trying to check.
No, I mean, you could probably throw the lighting plan in there.
Yes, please.
So.
And and Alan and Minor, or what is it, Alan and Major are doing a landscape plan. So, that's already been ordered, so we'll meet that condition.
And you could probably tell these guys, hey, this is the date we were given, so, you guys can.
Believe me, I'm gonna.
You just
I gotta go
texted them.
tomorrow morning.
If you want your paycheck, I need it by this date.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good.
People like doing business with me.
I'll second, but before I do, just procedurally, you need to just identify yourself. I just realized I don't. think
I'm
you did.
sorry.
That's okay.
My name is Peter Levine. I am the principal of Amber Bow Associates.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You already second?
What's that?
Never mind.
He made a motion, you seconded.
Yes. Okay.
Aye, any opposed? Guys, have it, so you have accepted your application.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. We look
Yes.
forward to this. Oh, sidewalk.
Engineer?
So we're gonna do a sidewalk before the next meeting? I mean, I guess,
Yep, right.
there's no wetlands to try to look at. We're gonna,
Should be quick.
I mean, it's woods in there now, right? You haven't, Take anything-
I've walked in there, but it's woods.
yep.
Here's a picture.
All right, it's a lot of woods. So before the next meeting,
We'll set a site visit too.
what's that?
We'll set up a site visit as well.
Yeah, that's what we're,
They're doing.
yeah.
Sidewalk, July 21st.
6 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock?
You guys doing it probably 5:30 would be the better one, just
Yeah.
extra time, just because it is although it sounds like a simple site walk, it is a larger lot.
It's a large
Right.
lot.
21st at 5.
21st at 5:30.
Okay. Engineering review, you said yes.
Yes.
Again, preference, you want.
You never gave us preference before. You guys have always.
Matt
said
always
that.
did it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
if you're worried about
They-
time wise, Gail's kind of a.
yeah, exactly.
Split it, we have 1 to 1 and the other, so we're.
Oh, sure.
Competing against time, the clock.
There you go.
So I'm sorry, the site, you said the 21st?
The 21st, yeah, prior to the meeting,
Okay.
5:30. meeting's at 7. And it will be the engineer we're gonna do is,
We'll do Gail, we'll do
Gail.
Boy and King on the other one, because that's Tim asked for.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
It's
Excellent.
Look forward to seeing you do it. It's,
I'm gonna work hard to get it done, do it right.
I didn't need to sleep anyway.
you have a move to continue the case.
Yeah.
Motion continue the hearing on this matter until the July 21st meeting.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
It's halftime and it's my anniversary, so.
Oh, yeah.
I made the motion.
I second.
Last anniversary.
Oh, Mike did.
All right, what do I do?
Minutes.
Yeah, so we didn't have any old business, did we? Any new business? No other correspondence? All we got is minutes? Minutes.
Wasn't here last month, so.
You don't have to be here.
Would you?
So one thing I'm gonna say is, I think I may step back from the planning board. I've been on here for 6 years, enjoyed it, but I'm running myself into the ground between work and everything else at this point. And it's once a month, but I'm like, we got
I guess this would be correspondence, another business.
diligently for like 3 years. I think, or more than that.
Yeah.
Mike's showing up for almost every single time at this point. Let the young blood get on here, and I may step back into something at some point. But I should probably step back.
So is it, because your term's about up, is it?
I think I just renewed at this point. I mean, I came in like a midterm at that point. I think it was renewed like a year and a half ago, so I still have 2 or 3 years, probably up with a 5-year term or something like that. I have no idea.
Three-year terms.
Yeah, so I probably have a year and a half or 2 of my term. It's not like I'm at the end of it, but I'm running myself into the ground between various things and other things I should be doing.
Well, thank you for, all you've done. This is a pretty thankless job, so. We appreciate people putting their,
My mother did it for 25 years in Groveton, which I'm sure is a lot more thankless. And it's one of those things, I was like, oh, seems like fun, I'll do it. I've enjoyed it, but as I say, I think there's others here who can take the seat at this point, not like we're lacking for alternates, so good time.
okay. I think he's supposed to notify the selectmen who's.
I wasn't sure the right way to do it, but I figured I'd just do it here.
Yeah. Yep.
I think if you send
Send an email. or-
Tanya an email.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sure I have.
Yeah, resigning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be sufficient. Yeah.
By statute, planning board members, you're until you're properly relieved or some wording like
Yeah.
that. So you're on there until we find someone else. So-
As I say,
Well, you can,
Show up.
yeah, to resign, you're gonna, the selectmen's appointed you, so you get to
And This,
give them their resignation.
this gives them the way so they can appoint an alternate.
Right.
Yeah.
Regularly.
All right. So while we're on this,
I knew it.
how do you like, how'd you like to change your sign to regular?
I've been thrilled. I've been waiting for years. Yeah. I'm here, so
Okay, great.
absolutely.
All right, because
So
I'm sure
minutes.
Tanya will be asking me that. Yes, minutes.
Okay, actually, on page 2, just to line 51, where we talk about runoff mitigated by using, I'd say infiltration stones rather than ground stones.
You just move up on the minutes on the.
Maybe make it a little bigger.
Just so you know, this is a PDF, so I can't.
Yeah, no, that's good, that's fine.
So I
That's,
just, you know.
oh, you can't edit it, right? I can give you my scribbled
No,
notes.
she's making notes. but I'm just
Oh,
saying I
okay,
can't
all right.
On the screen.
Line 56, I guess, where it says there were no endangered species, I would say noted
Indeed, instead of.
instead of concentration. Then later in the sentence, overall, there is, I'd take out the compromise, or so I'd say no impact to this important wetland resource.
So just impact.
Right,
There is no impact of this.
right. And then way down on line 81, Eric Mitchell just needs a second L on his name.
And you sure it's 2 L's?
It's 2 L's, yes.
Okay.
Mhm, yeah. And that's it for me.
Motion to accept as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to adjourn.
Aye. See ya. Oh,
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll be back involved with something, but my wife will force me to do
Motion
something.
to adjourn.
I did.
Everybody said.
Everybody said we did.
We all.
I think Tim Premier did on the way.
Yeah.
And who's second?
And you're gonna send us Tanya a
Okay,
note that
everybody.
you can accept it as.
Yeah,
No, thank
As
you.
I always do.
No, that's it.
I'm sure she'll send me a note,
Yeah, actually, I may do that too.
but I would rather you resign
Yeah.
first and then,
Yeah, I'll send a note saying I'm resigning effective now so they can appoint someone
Yep.
sitting for next meeting and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So.
Planning board member.